I'm here to tell you that your whole life can change in a moment. And this is that moment. And this is the word.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of The Word, the official Preacher Podcast. I am your co-host, just the co-host.
Thrice blessed are we, congregation. How's everybody doing today? Dan at your service. I'm going to talk some Preacher. Hey, we're a little bit late this week, but here we are, as promised. So quit bitching. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, everybody?
Yeah, G, I am very excited to talk. First of all, I haven't talked to you pretty much all week because you've been grooving and lollygagging in the whatever Dan's world is. We used to talk a lot, but Dan has been like in his zone lately, and so I don't really bother him. How are you doing?
Outside of being the asshole that you're describing, I'm doing fantastic, sir. Thank you very much. I like this whole thing, dude. I'm telling you, this whole looking at you thing on Skype. I know like everyone else does it, but it's still new to us, and I like it. I feel like I'm talking at you as opposed to just talking into a microphone.
It's like I'm literally in your bedroom.
Where am I? I'm in your studio?
Yes.
Wow, it's fucking amazing.
Yes.
Thank you, Internet.
And that's gonna be you because you're getting a studio fairly soon here.
One of these days. I stopped talking shit. I'm just gonna wait till it happens. I'm not gonna like keep going, hey, look what I'm getting, because I'll just wait until I go, look what I've got. I think that's better. Mr. Big Plans, you know what I mean? That never comes
That's good.
fruition.
You should have big plans. You should have those. It's good.
It's good to have goals.
Yes, man. You should totally have big plans. You know, I had a big plan. It wasn't a big plan, but I always wanted a fountain pen, and I got a fountain pen this week.
Sorry. So, see, ladies and gentlemen, if you just put your mind to it, you can really shoot for the stars. Dream big is what I'm saying. Dream big like Hudson. Maybe one day.
Man, I always wanted that joint.
Maybe one of these days you'll get one of those little those pencils that you could just click and then more lead comes out.
Gee,
when it breaks off.
They're dope. Yeah, I feel like I'm freaking using a quill. I'm like, I should be writing Shakespeare.
I was gonna say, don't even talk at me until I see you with a quill and a monocle. Then I know that you're like the big timer.
And writing calligraphy. Every time I write something, be like, yes.
Looking up, kind of frustrated and pounding your fist on the desk.
And then dipping the ink instead of just having cards. But I have cartridges. Come on. That's mean. That's not how y'all talk at all. Johnny Bucks, I'm looking at you.
And Pedro. You're going to hear the lovely vocals of Pedro in a little bit too.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Let's get to it. I know you guys want to know how to get into contact with us because you're about to hear how you're going to sound online. And that will bring us to Dan's awesome, amazing contact information.
Well, you heard it from the man. Looks like I got some splaining to do about some things. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Word, the Unofficial Preacher Podcast. My name is Dan Ramirez, and I've got some information for you. If you want to get a hold of the show, you can hit us up at askthewordpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter, Word_podcast, my friend Steve at SE_Hudson Music, and myself, Dan Q Public. That's where you can get us at. Get all of these things, guys. And I just made it a little bit better, too. Get them all at www.heroesofnoise.com. That's where we live. That's our house. And I'm making little improvements as we go. You can listen to the show from there. You can subscribe to the show from there. And new feature, Steve. We got voicemail now, my friend, like real voicemail. So all these guys have to do is go to the site, go to the homepage, go to the contact tab, hit voicemail, and speak right into your computer, your smartphone, whatever, what have you. Talk to us. Talk at us. We want to hear from you. Other than that, please leave us a 4-star review when you subscribe. And, just send us emails, whatever you want to do. Just talk at us. This is what we do this for. We miss you. And we're sorry that we're late. Steve, back to you.
So, Dan, do you want to do the voicemail or do you want to do a few of these emails first?
Let's see. We only have one email, Steve, but we have 2 voicemails. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into the voicemails then. Because,
let's do it.
I can always hold off reading. You know that.
I can't wait.
All right. So the first one comes from someone that's been with us for a while now, but we've never heard his voice. I already, said his name. So let's get to him. Mr. Pedro. I almost said your last name. I don't know if you want me to do that. I hear that's a faux pas. So this one's from Pedro, and it's involving this week's episode. Let's take a listen.
Gentlemen, Steve, Dan, hope you guys are well. Episode 6, another cracking episode. Absolutely loved it. So many great moments. These are a few of my favorite. The Saint adopting Eugene. Seems like the orphanage are giving away kids to anyone these days. You can only imagine what the conversation must have been like beforehand. We finally got to see dickhead hairstyle, which looked hilarious. I like how in every episode he's got a new hat on, whereas in the comics, he's trying a bunch of different hats in front of the mirror. I like what they're doing with this. We got animal raping TC. In this episode, this was my favorite scene. The part where the police made an immediate U-turn as soon as they found out it was TC who was at the petting zoo. They didn't even need to know anything else. They're like, oh shit, we gotta go back. TC is at the zoo. In my opinion, TC running with the goat in slow motion was not pixelated enough. I could see way more than I would have liked to. Now, there's a part in this episode that stood out to me. When Grandma was eating those souls, her tongue was slithering like a snake. Now, in the comics, there's a section where her neck stretches out and her face starts to look like a snake. So I wonder if they're going to add this to the show. Care to hear your thoughts? Can't wait to hear your podcast. Take care.
Pedro, hell of a voice on you, my man.
Brother, great. I'm telling you, if you and Johnny Bucks get, Johnny Bucks and Mick have a show, if y'all ever do a show together, I think it's just going to be literally just like a Bruno Mars concert for y'all. I mean, it's going to be crazy.
The girls will come running.
Yes. But Pedro, I do agree. The Saint getting Eugene was pretty much. No, it wasn't it was close to the highlight for me, only because I didn't know I knew that he was coming, but when they're like, hey, someone's here to see you, for some reason my brain went to someone else. I'm like, I wonder who's there. But then you hear those clunk. You're like, oh my gosh. And the Saint looks so dope. Now, Dan, I will say this. This actually put in perspective, he's a little shorter than I thought. The
Saint?
He was.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And they play it differently too sometimes. I think that sometimes, maybe it's just me, but it seems like they purposely, like I'm not saying they're purposely doing it, but other times they'll be where he looks super tall compared to other people. And then other times,
yes.
So the word I'm actually looking for is they're accidentally not making him tall. I don't know, man. But, or it's just maybe depends on who's shooting it, who's directing it. But
that's totally what it's probably because
I have noticed him look super tall sometimes, especially when he like picks somebody up or something like that.
I think it's Tulip. I think it's with Tulip he looks super tall.
Could be. She's pretty tiny. I don't know how tall she is, but she is pretty tiny.
But when Eugene and the Saint were walking through the field, I was like, oh, he's like a normal height guy.
You know, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but I'm glad that it was quick. You know what I mean? Like they're not throwing us off this main story too much.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's disappointing to some people, probably Ian Coletti not getting enough time, but I think that what they're doing, they're going about this the right way right now, and they should just, it's going to come to a head probably in like the next episode or the episode after that. But I'm glad that they're not peppering us much like the prison thing, where it was just almost every episode they were giving us a little bit of something from hell. I like that this is just short and sweet.
And I have a question for you, Pedro. Do you like the Saint as he is shown here walking through the field with Eugene, where he's like, I mean, he's probably a good 6'2", 6'3", maybe. Or would you want a Saint that is 7'1"? That's just this massive walking behemoth that you're just like, oh, this guy is a scary looking fella. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because for me, I think it would be an interesting thing to have a massive guy doing this, where he stands up and he just keeps on going. And you're like, oh, well, you look bigger than I thought you were. And so I'm interested to see what you think of that. The other thing that you had mentioned, animal raping TC. I
knew from Mattel.
I saw that. Yeah, exactly. I fell off my chair when I saw that scene. I was like, so Dan, you were kind of right, because you're like, you think they're going to even touch that? And I was like, no, they did.
Yeah, they poked it with a stick from about 10 feet away. I think that's about and that's fine. Like, I really don't need to see that in real life anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's totally fine what they did. I like how they did it, and I was laughing with the whole pixelated swinging in the breeze thing. Yeah, you're right, Pedro.
So
they didn't pixelate it enough. But
that was so funny.
You know, to Colin Cunningham, you're no slouch, buddy, so good job there for you.
Hey, question. I'm sorry, because I posed the question.
That means I saw your penis, Colin. I'm just saying.
Yes. And so, do you think it would have been interesting to have a tall Saint? A really big Saint? Or you think, no, average height is perfect?
I think it would be cool if he was more menacing. You know, like when we were talking about maybe having the Gravedigger do it back in the day.
Yeah.
He's a big guy, right? So he looks the part. And I think there is something with the contrast of height there. I think that it does make for a more menacing character. But that said, Graham McTavish is doing an excellent job.
Oh, he's doing a wonderful job. I mean, look, he's doing a great job. This is just only because it's almost as if when he went to hell in my brain, he physically changed in my brain in the book. Like he didn't just he wasn't just a normal, he was a normal person before, but going to hell changes a person.
That's what I hear.
We're gonna give you these pistols, and also you go back looking like,
like the Gravedigger.
Gravedigger, yeah. And the interesting thing about the Gravedigger, the reason I think we brought him up is
the Undertaker, bro. We're saying Undertaker. Sorry about that. I'm not talking about the monster truck. I am referring to the Undertaker. Sorry about that.
The Undertaker. One thing about the Undertaker that's so good is, you know how some people look weird tall?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like their body tried to get in. Undertaker just looks like a normal human that happens to be humongous like that. Like he doesn't, his body is not, oh wow, his face looks strange, that looks weird. No, he looks like a normal person that is just humongous.
Yeah, there's no gigantism or anything like that going on.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, he just looks, when he's like, it was one of those things where when you're walking by him, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to what you say. And he'd stand up and you'd be like, oh, well, this was an interesting change. So maybe it's just, he would have, again, that look would have been perfect. Graham McTavish is killing it. I just don't know. But they could have put lifts in too. I don't know if they might have, though. I might be tripping.
Or they could just do the thing that they do with short actors and put them on a, never show their feet together. You know what I'm saying? Just put them on a ramp.
Oh, put them on a ramp. That, you know what though? It's a very smart thing. I know they did that with Stallone a few times.
Put them on a ramp. Why don't you?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that's again, great point by Pedro as far as TC. And his last point was the snake slither. I think it was either a nod to the comic or they might go full on. Because look, I didn't think they were going to pull off the wig. Dan called it. And I was like, nah, they're not going to do that. They did it. I would not put this past them to do that if they do a little snake thing. What do you think, Dan?
They've got Marie Langell on a whole other level this time. And I think that anything's possible. Honestly, it's not like just a cop-out answer. I really think that anything's possible. I have no idea what they're going to do with this character. She's now going to meet with Satan, as we've seen on the trailer. So she's clearly not the same character she was in the book. So let's have at it. Let's see her turn into a snake. I think that's kind of cool. And then one more thing about TC. I felt fully paid off on that, by the way. I think that was just as much as I needed to see. I don't need to see anything else, but I'm glad that I honestly think that they're making Colin Cunningham's TC shine more than any character this season, and I'm loving it. So I just want to say that. Well,
I love when TC, he's like, I could buy you some time. He was looking forward to that.
Yeah, he goes, we'll talk about it again, but he goes, what do you say? You need any help? It's in my notes. He said, you need any help? He said, no, I like to do these things in private.
He couldn't wait.
I need a little privacy.
He could not wait. Yeah. Now, one thing about the slithering tongue, did you see how Preacher looked at her when she did that?
No, I didn't catch that.
Either it was Preacher or something, but they flashed to someone's face, like as in they noticed either A, this is weird, or B, uh-oh, she's doing this thing. Because he was like, what? So I was like, okay, when she did it, it was a purposeful thing. That tongue thing was meant to draw our attention to it. No question.
Yeah, they did it for a reason.
And the person's face was like, uh-oh. Either uh-oh or I've never seen this. I think it was more of an uh-oh, like, oh boy.
I used to work in a convalescent hospital. And now Betty Buckley is obviously not as old as they're making her to be as grandma. But there's something about an elderly person like wiggling their tongue outside of their mouth that I literally looked away when I saw it. It was something it made me a little bit uneasy. Yeah, I mean, it's not like a weird phobia. Yeah, it's not a weird phobia or anything like that. But it was just, I think maybe that's why I didn't pay that much attention to it, because I was just, ooh. And I looked away and really didn't think about it until you brought it back up. Thanks, Pedro.
I did not know that you had a phobia for older people, G.
No, I'm not afraid of old people. I just don't want to see them. Hey, easy werewolves. I'm just saying that.
Oh, this is true. This is true.
I'm just, I don't like watching them wiggle their tongues. But then again, like I said, Betty Buckley's not that old. So maybe it would have been okay. It was just, as you say, in my brain, that was an old lady wiggling her tongue and it grossed me out because I figured there's going to be some oatmeal on the end of it or something like that, A little extra soul.
What do you consider old? Yes, what do you consider old?
Don't get me into that question, dude.
I'm just wondering.
I'm talking, like a woman.
Like 80 or 90.
In the 80s, in the 90s, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, I'm with you.
When the teeth start going away and stuff.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Pedro. That was an awesome voicemail. Can't wait to hear back from you, and very eager to hear what you think as far as the saint and his height, which is so strange. But let me know if you think, you know what, it would have been interesting to see a 7-footer, 6'10er. 6'10er would have been fine too.
Good to hear your voice, dude. Hell of a voice. All right. So the next one up is an old friend, Steve. Someone we were just talking about. Mr. Johnny Bucks gave us a voicemail. Johnny, you might know John from our other show. John's been with us since the beginning of this show, and he followed us over to Heroes of Noise. He's even put in some work on that show, so check him out.
He has put in some hard work on that show. He has bailed us out a few times.
This is very true. And he also, along with Mick, his brother-in-law, do a show called Foom. It's Foom, like Mark or like Manchester. That's better. I'm just trying to keep it local. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then also an exclamation point, I believe.
Or Mick. I thought you were going with that.
That could work too. I was trying to keep it geographically topical.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, yeah, anyway, they Foom is the name of their podcast. Check them out. They are about 3 shows in. Send them some love. Good. Subscribe to them. They're our friends. We'd really appreciate it.
It is so good. They do a hot sauce section. There's a section on hot sauce on their first episode that will have you dying. So check it out.
And I have questions too, because Johnny, if you're listening, the little interludes, the little musical interludes that you do in between, is that just you? There's one that's, I think you're giving some, it's always about food. I know there was something about, I don't even remember anymore, but it's like he's giving the ingredients to something like that. And he just goes,
I didn't know.
And he goes, at the end.
That's funny.
I'm not even anyway, I'm babbling. So let's listen to John because he doesn't babble like me. Here we go.
Gentlemen, Johnny Bucks here. Finally caught up with Preacher after my horrific internet troubles. Absolutely loving season 3 and your coverage of it, of course. Top class as always. Couple of things on the last episode. Loved the All-Father sitting on that guy's head. And Hairstar steals the show every single time.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
It's so great to see him take the hat off.
So good.
I loved the whole bank heist thing, the plan. Another great plan that the guys put together. When we get confirmation of TC's animal-related proclivities. The look on the cops' faces when they realised it was him who was in the petting zoo. And then that amazing shot of him running down the street with his pixelated parts. Really, I just suddenly realised who the actor is as well, Colin Cunningham. I watched Falling Skies, which was patchy, but kind of entertaining. And he plays a character in that who's completely different. That's why I didn't recognise him. Really impressed with his acting skills that he could play somebody so completely different. I didn't even recognise him. And also the guy that plays Jody, I think would have made a good Psycho Train from the comic books.
Very true.
But he's great as Jody.
Good
but
observation.
He's got very Steve Dillon eyes. I think the way he's kind of got a slightly kind of bug eyes. The way that Steve Dillon used to draw. So yeah, loving it. Absolutely loving it. They're smashing it. I really hope we get at least another season out of this. It really feels like the books more than ever. With enough changes to make it really, really interesting. So, yeah, great stuff. As always, keep up the good work, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Cheers, bye.
Johnny Bucks.
Jay Beezy.
Jay Bizzle.
Jay Beezy. So for me,
Jay Boogie.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep throwing him out.
I appreciate that, Frida. I love how this really tickled a lot of people's fancies. TC's scene really tickled more people's fancy than I thought. Literally, for me, it was a brush away scene, but I think I'm the only one.
I think you might be. It says something about you compared to us, though, man. I think you might be the only normal one in the lot because everyone else is like, yay, swinging dick.
Yeah. For me, I was like, oh. Now, I haven't seen Fallen Skies. I did not know. I've never seen this actor. I might have seen him, but there's nothing that in my brain is like, oh, he's that guy from this. That's interesting that you caught that. I did not catch that. And you're right. Jody does have very Dylan-esque eyes. It would be the way he drew him. Everything else, it's a shocker for me, but now I'm used to Jody looking that way. I think, oh, this is a good Jody. But that just shows how good that actor is because he sold me on Jody. Because I had Jody a different way in my brain.
Yeah, he won you over pretty quick.
Dude.
Usually you're a little more tough on him, and he's won you over.
Yeah. Oh, I think a big thing was how tough he was. When he lifted up that truck, I said, there he is. That's Jody. Even though Jody wasn't that over the top, they had to make him over the top strong because, like I said before, if you saw Jody from the comic book, he wouldn't have to lift that truck because he just looks like he could lift that truck. This guy had to prove, let me show you how strong I am.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, you don't need the muscle. You just showed me what you can do. It was smart, dude. Because, also, come on, man. You can't have The Rock in the middle of nowhere. Be like, really? How do you keep that physique? That's random.
Push-ups.
How exactly?
My own body weight.
But Jody is ripped and it's just like, come on, let's keep it in the realm of, let's keep it real because, he lifts a truck. That's more real. I know it's ridiculous. But either way, keep it more in the, okay, he looks like a guy that would work out there.
Kind of odd how they did that one scene where he lifted the truck. And they showed him kick a lot of ass, right? But they had him lift the truck. And then they never really went to that again. So it just made you like, oh, this dude's capable of doing a whole lot more. I don't even know if they're going to go back to it. Is it just one of those, hey, look at this guy, he's not to be fucked with kind of things, and then they're just going to leave it alone?
Yes. Because the thing is now, when you see him enter a room and a person goes flying out a window, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember he could lift a truck. Whereas they wouldn't have established that. You would have said, oh, he could fight like that? Now he doesn't really need to know how to fight like that. He's so strong that if he connects with somebody, well, that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
You don't need karate. You just need to connect with somebody. And you are a dangerous person. So I thought it was a wise thing to establish Jody. That I'm just impressed with whoever said, I think that guy's Jody. That's a freaking strong, especially if you're selling it to a group of people who have read the comic. Selling that actor as Jody was a genius move, and it worked, bruh. That's a genius move to do.
Do you think it was his audition?
Yes.
It's all got to go into the accent and just the way that you carry yourself and everything, but completely happy.
Yes. Also, it might not even have been maybe it was, because I don't know the actor. Maybe they saw the actor in something. They're just like, that's the guy. I don't know his work. So maybe it's just like, oh no, he's him. That's Jody. For sure. For sure, Jody.
I'm feeling bad because I'm forgetting his name at the moment. I want to give him a little bit of credit, but stand by because it's coming. It's Jeremy Childs. I have his name, it's there, but I always forget his name for some reason. So it's Jeremy Childs. Good old IMDb helping me out.
That sounds like a lead singer's name from a rock group. It's a perfect lead singer rock group.
I think it sounds like a distinguished English actor.
Jeremy Childs?
Yeah. And the winner is Jeremy Childs for The English Patient.
But if it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Childs, that sounds like, you made up that name. You took two people's names.
It sounds like a pop singer from the 70s.
Jeremy Childs kind of does, huh? Because it's two. Yeah, that's right. If you have a first name and a word for your last name, that is a rock name. It's either two first names put together or a first name and a normal word. Like Stephen Couch. I'm like, oh, that's a singer.
So I just hear 70s pop star, man. It's just like, so I was doing some blow listening to the new Jeremy Child disco beat,
Jeremy
right?
Child.
So I take in a gagger, I throw up all over the floor.
Hey, Jeremy, if you listen to this is all Dan.
And my tongue was numb because I threw up I was putting stuff up my nose. Anyway, you can tell I don't do that shit.
How would you know? Yeah, that was what I was like, how do you know your tongue gets numb?
Let's go. So anyway, we got an email from Christina. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. A wonderful voice from Johnny Bucks. Let me tell you something, sir. It's just me and you in this room right now, Jay. Just me and you. Voicemail whenever you want, G. Voicemail whenever you want.
Better yet, come on the show.
Better yet, come on the show. Because it's just me and you in the room. You didn't hear what Dan just said. Yeah, come on the show.
Hey, Steve, tell him to come on the show. Why'd you kick me out of the room, dude?
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a Pedro, Johnny Bucks, Mick monster show.
This guy with his plans. Looks like I got a lot of emailing to do.
You know, the sad part is I don't ever have to do any of the background stuff. And Dan was like, oh, thanks. Yeah, I'll figure that one out.
What else you need, buddy?
That.
Make you a sandwich.
I'll just call you and you show up. And then you say, look how we have done this.
Yeah, okay, Prince.
Yeah, exactly. Get it done. You know, oh,
King
man,
Steve-O.
This is such a tangent. No, we're not going to go on this tangent. We'll do it on the Heroes.
All right.
But I have a Prince tangent to go. I see, Johnny Bucks, you're going to love this tangent, so you might want to listen to Heroes of Noise. It's a Prince tangent.
And they can listen to the show if we actually put them out. So again, sorry about our tardiness. I think we're back on schedule now. I'm pretty sure this was the last week of funky schedules, and we're gonna be more routine about these things now. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
You mean schedule?
I'll schedule.
Say it the proper way, my friend.
Sorry, man. I ain't so good at English talking. I don't speak right. All right.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Actually, that was very clever, friend.
Moving along, sir. We've got an email from Christina, our friend Christina, and I'm about to blast through this one here, guys. So bear with me. It's a little lengthy, but I'm gonna get through it. She usually has some good points here. Here we go.
Always.
Hey guys, I'm going to catch up to you before season's end, but this Sunday I've only got time for one episode. Can't wait to hear the responses to my previous email as I'm still behind. So here's my lingering thoughts and commentary. Marie Langell has to be connected to hell, right? It's the devil's job to collect souls in exchange for favors, and all the roids.
Yeah.
And all the roads point to Langell bloodline being possibly the devil's minions, disciples on Earth. The more souls she consumes from him, she retains her youth and her power, but she needs the line to continue, as they are brokers, so to speak, for her. Since she's grandma to Christina and Jesse, I bet she's a descendant that goes by grandma. I could be wrong, but I like the idea as it ties Jesse directly to the other world of heaven and hell, and makes entirely more sense why Genesis would connect with him, particularly on Earth. Tulip totally has 2 boyfriends now, and I'm here for it. Though I shamelessly love her with Cassidy more, and the non-sexual aspect of their relationship makes it all that more enjoyable. Maybe that says something about me, but I think it's natural to crave the cocky boy toy that pulls at your more visceral and naked desires. And then, I've never said that sentence before in my life. And you know me deeply, best friend. It's clear Tulip can't get both from either, so why not have them both?
That's actually a really good point. I did not know. Here's the thing. You just kind of changed the game there, Christina. I didn't know that it's natural to crave the boy toy. Huh. And the you know me deeply best friend. See, often some people I know that look just like me fall into that you know me deeply best friend
zone.
And maybe you should, yeah. So I didn't know boy toys, so I gotta wear some more V-neck shirts, really deep V-necks, like to my belly button at work.
What? Please don't do that, man. Just do it on, I'm only there on Thursdays and Fridays. So any other day of the week would be fine. Thank you. But if you do, make sure that they're gold lame, so it's kind of shiny off the skin like that,
And I'm gonna wear a bunch of gold chains too, and make sure the chest hair is a little bit out there for sure. It's going down, bro.
Of course, because that's exactly what she's picturing. I'm sure, right?
Yeah. No, there's no question. No question.
Now, Hudson, you made me lose my place. Hold on. All right, here we go. So Christina says, Steve, did you read Cassidy's words to Tulip at the end as manipulation or to push her to understand that she needs to accept that while she messed up, and then in parentheses she says, but did she though? More on that. Jesse be on that deceptive shit. Jesse still doesn't do it for me. Despite all I know, I find myself so detached from empathy for this character. It just has to be how Dominic Cooper has portrayed him that ruins my chance of sympathy for me.
Damn!
For this guy.
What is up with you?
You know what? I'm not going to 100% agree with her, but I will say that he's probably still my least favorite, even though the show's called Preacher. I think that, anyway, we'll get to that afterward, after I get through this.
Yeah, dang, look at you.
Not to say that I'm disrespecting the man.
I know, but dang, G. Shots fired. Okay, we're going to come back to that.
Steve, Jesse be on that deceptive shit, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Jesse be on. Yeah, no question. California knows how to party.
Did you know that it's in fact nothing but a G thing?
is so funny. That is
I've got to get mine, but you've certainly got to get yours.
That is, how do you know that song?
Come on, man.
How do you know that
You think
song?
I don't know Breed?
How do you know that song?
Like I have...
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Dan just blew my mind that he knew that song. I'm sorry.
It's a good song.
But I shouldn't be shocked. I have your iPod.
Yeah, exactly.
Why am I shocked by that? Never mind. I forgot. Yeah, this used to belong to you.
You don't give me any credit, man. You never do.
Gee,
you never do.
Hip-hop on that iPod is crazy. It is crazy. I'm like, why does he have this?
So I was reading this beforehand, before I switched over, and I was making myself sound like, and nothing's wrong with this, of course, but like the whitest person in the world as I was reading it, because I was just, I wasn't putting the affectation in there where I should. So Jesse beyond that, Steve.
That is so funny.
It's a problem.
Dude. I am never going to forget that. I am never going to forget that.
To put it straight, I think more than anything, he wants to kick God's ass and sit in his seat when all is said and done, and he wants his best friend and woman to be on either side of him. The Holy Trinity. Honestly, I said that, not her. I may be happier if they just leaned into that instead of the hovering question mark on his intentions. I believe 100% Jesse was all about that life of getting in with Hairstar. He knew Grandma didn't want or need Cassidy or Tulip, and with his soul back could shut that shit down. But at the same time, Star has pointed out, God is still missing, and Humperdew is it. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying there, Christina. As Cassidy pointed out, he's still making plans. Sure, he'd kill Featherstone and Hoover to appease Tulip, but Jesse doesn't convince me that he's moved on from all that despite what has happened with the Grail. Every time he thinks he's regained the upper hand, he defaults immediately back to idiotically cocky. I'm convinced it's his nature, from growing up the way he did with all these people as a family. You can hate something all you want, but it imprints itself upon you, and there's darkness in Jesse he can't escape. Maybe the series will end with Jesse being the fallen angel from hell that ascends to heaven to mirror the devil being the angel thrown to heaven. Probably wrong, but cool concept. I descended into a new level of disgust when TC sniffed the colostomy bag. Oh, we're going back a little bit. Okay, I know where you are now. Was that hanging down man in the picture foreshadowing for Cassidy? Oh, she's just blasting us with like little points right here. Here we go.
Yeah, affirmative.
Gotcha. Can Tulip make some comments on the fact that she's on a fucking plantation with slaves in the pictures?
Word.
Jesse.
Damn, that's a good point. Okay, maybe I got to go back to that later on.
Yeah. I'm almost done. And everyone's like just rejoicing right now because I read terribly. Sorry. Jesse definitely screwed a Boyd. Wink, wink. Best fight scene of this series is Hairstar in that church. Next has to be Billy Joel's Uptown Girl fight with the Butcher. That was a good one. When TC asked Cassidy if he likes drugs, I was totally hoping Miguel's Do You came on. If you don't know, look it up. Hilarious. Sorry so long, Christina. And Christina, I'm sorry I butchered your letter yet again.
I love Christina's letter, and I think you did a great job. Now, here's the thing. Christina, listen. I was kind of thinking about this a few weeks ago, and I never said it, and I forgot. Yeah, Tulip has to say something about the fact she's on a plantation.
She absolutely should. I mean, it would make sense that she would acknowledge something like that. The irony or something.
Exactly. Yeah. The fact that she hasn't said anything about it, I'm like, that's an interesting thing. No one has said anything about it, though. You know, TC hasn't said anything about, what we used to do with y'all. Jody hasn't been like, said some sort of derogatory statement. Grandma hasn't said anything. So look, Tulip, there is a huge elephant in the room. Something has to be said. You're the only, well, then again, I'm shocked also that Boyd didn't say anything either. I'm surprised she's like, you're going back to the plantation is what you're telling me. She didn't say anything about it either. So I don't know if this is a thing they just don't want to mess around with because they might do it wrong. If you do it wrong.
Yes. And
that's bad.
And pardon my silence while you were talking, but that's what I'm supposed to do is listen to you. But that's exactly what I was thinking. Maybe they're just not wanting to go there for the purposes of,
if you
times are heated right now.
Oh,
and
yes.
If you fuck that up, you got problems. You don't want to really chance those kind of things. So I'm thinking that that's probably what it is.
And also, another point you made, you said that the goal would be for Jesse to beat up God and take his throne. I don't think Jesse wants his throne. He didn't want it. He just wants revenge.
He's like, nah.
I think that's just Jesse's. His thing is revenge. He doesn't need a throne. If he has Genesis, he doesn't need the throne. He really doesn't. technically he'll be walking around with it. And this is take your ears away from everybody that hasn't read the comic. Jesse should not be the one that sits on that throne at the end.
No.
There should be only one person.
Yeah, that wouldn't be cool at all.
You can't, because that panel is huge, dude. That panel is humongous. So you can't have Jesse on it.
Some would say it's iconic.
Oh, look, if I could get that panel as a poster, that would almost show me how dope some people are. If they walk in, they're like, what the crap is that? What the crap is that? And then that one person comes in and they're like, hey, love Preacher. Oh, I might just marry them.
That's a good idea. That would be a cool picture to have hanging on your wall.
Gee, how dope would that picture be? Of him just sitting slouched on the throne. Oh, man. You know what, G? I think we need to get that poster.
We could have it. We could do it. There's someone out there that can do this for us, I'm sure.
Well, they just, all you do is, I'm imagining you take it to dude, they would just expand it and be like, okay, we'll frame it, have fun.
There you go.
And how crazy would that poster be?
Now I know what to get you for Christmas, man.
No, we could just, they're like, we'll do a gift exchange and you'll know exactly what I got you. Yeah, so the Dominique Cooper hate, you got to get into that. He is still... Okay.
You said hate. I don't think there's any hatred going on.
But he's
or hating.
Winning me. He's winning me over the last 2 episodes.
Oh, no doubt. I think he's good. I'm just saying maybe it's because of his performance. Yeah, and I'll go ahead. Or the script. That's more fair. From the last 2 seasons, I think that they sort of unintentionally made him, even though the show is called Preacher, they sort of made him like the bad guy in a way, or like almost like an antagonist within the protagonist circle, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah. And I just think that, they made Tulip they've grown Tulip so much. She's actually becoming one of my favorite on the show. I think she might be possibly top 2. And then, of course, Cassidy, who can do no wrong. Or I should say Joseph Gilgan, who could do no wrong.
Killer.
Yeah, so he's just always been number 3 for me for some reason. It's not that way in the comics.
Well, I know in the comics, my favorite, I think it went for me, Preacher, Cassidy, Saint, Hairstar, Tulip. Like consistent people.
That's a good order.
What about yours in the comic?
I would probably have that exactly the same, except I would switch the Saint and Hairstar. Because Hairstar's got such great one-liners in the comics. And they're giving him quite a few. Yeah, I would. And I just love the whole story of, again, comic spoilers. I won't really get into the detail of it, but just... how can I put this without really ruining it for everybody? You see less and less of Hairstar as it goes on.
Oh, true.
Literally.
True. They're not going to do, I don't think they're going to do The Hills Have Eyes. I'll just say that. I don't think they're going to do you think they're going to do The Hills Have Eyes?
Was that what it was called?
No, but
I know what you're talking about.
Do you think they're going to do The Hills Have Eyes or no?
I think that if they do, it's going to be next season, and they're sort of leading up to that. You know what I mean? They're leading up to where that could totally take place.
Yes. So I think that one of the main reasons that, like, Saint was dope to me, but there is a nuclear bomb situation in the comic that panel, that series of panels afterwards, the Saint I was like, oh, it's over. He's the baddest cat. I mean, he's one of the baddest cats I've ever read in a comic book before. This is insane.
I got a feeling that at one point we're going to see Not Enough Gun. I think he'll say it. I'm pretty sure that's all the War in the Sun story, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I think that he'll definitely say Not Enough Gun at some point. And I won't go into any more detail than that.
Yes, done. But yeah, Christina, great email. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the email, brother?
Let me just check real quick. No, I'm pretty much with her. I like her choices of fight scenes. I'm sorry, I don't listen to Miguel, so I can't. I'll Google it. I will do that for you. I will look it up. But Steve, what you know about that?
I like Miguel. My jam from him is Banana Clip, though. Banana Clip is my cut.
Have you heard Do You?
I have not heard Do You.
Okay, so then you're going to look it up too, right? We'll get back to her on this.
I am going to look, for sure.
Yeah.
It's easy.
But hey, Christina, thank you very much for the lovely email. We really appreciate you writing in. And again, I'm sorry I butchered it, because I totally did. But I'm not going to butcher this breakdown right now, Steve.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, here we go. This is the breakdown for Season 3, of course, Preacher. Season 3, Episode 6, Les Enfants du Sang. Director, Laura Belzi is the director, and the writer is Rachel Wagner. And away we go. Here we go. So we open up, Steve, and we're staring into this cavernous hole that is Eugene Root's mouth. he's back. Eugene has finally come back this season, and I really like this shot too. It's more agape than usual, sir, because he's staring at yet another and larger hole. It's a crater. It's Anvil, man. He's staring where Anvil once stood, and as he surveys that whole land, did you happen to notice that the church, the All Saints Church, is just in there somewhere? Like everything else is obliterated, but you can still see the All Saints Church just a little bit, a little nod to it, But he's staring with disbelief, and he starts talking to himself. We see him being transported. Somehow he meets up with the Texas Department of Human Services, and he's riding back to the adoption agency. And he's like talking to himself. He's like, I don't understand. I've been to hell and back to that. What was the point? All this hell is what saved me. I can't do this too much anymore, man. Got a canker sore is what I'm getting at. But basically what he's saying is, if I didn't go to hell, I'd be dead too. So Eugene's under the impression that God has a bigger plan for him, and he's happy about that. And I love it when he's walking, he's doing this whole inner monologue all the way to where he sits down next to the other orphan guy, and he says, my story is just beginning. That gave me some hope, because I do think that we have to get Coletti on board with the whole comic arc. You know what I mean? He hasn't had a chance to really do that yet, outside of just being the son of Sherrod Root and being Arseface for that matter. He really hasn't touched on any comic, great detail. In other words, he was getting that season 1 and season 2 version of the story. And now, since they're so accurate or getting more accurate to it, I should say, they really need to get him involved with that too. So I think that this whole my story is just beginning thing is just in fact that. I think we're going to see a lot more of him now. And that's cool too, because, I want to see him as the rock star Arseface. I want to see him as I always called him the Dark Rider, but the dude on the motorcycle.
Yes.
So yes. I'm looking forward to see what's to come with this guy. Anyway, back to the orphanage. It's Lone Star Orphanage, and outside there's a sign there. It reads, "Inventory low, make us an offer." Eugene is telling this. That
is so funny.
Yeah. Eugene's telling this story to the kid that's sitting across from him, and the kid tells him his own story. He's like, "You want to hear a story?" He says, my mom he said, my mom killed my mom killed my dad for stabbing her, and they both died. Then I went to live to my aunt's, and her meth lab blew up. That killed her. She died. Then he went and he stayed with his grandma, who was a decent person, but she ended up choking on a peach pit. So that's a rough life right there. He goes, the end.
And the thing is, I love the fact that they had this brother looking at this dude talking about everything's going to work out for me. And this brother looking at him like, dog, I am not trying to hear your bull crap right now. It was so good.
That guy made me laugh, because he says something like, you're ugly. And he said, you're probably stupid to not think that you're going to end up this is the end of the line is what he tells him. He says, your story ends here. And immediately after that, someone comes on the PA, Root, Eugene, you've been adopted. And the dude's like, what? He just had this, are you fucking kidding me? Look on his face.
It was a cool commentary.
Yes.
A subtle commentary.
Absolutely.
It was like, of course, everything just worked out.
Yeah.
It didn't, but the dude is like, what? Ow! I mean, a guy that pretty much has a hole in his face is still gonna get adopted before you, bro.
It was fucked up. I know.
It's just like, what?
We should laugh about it, but I mean, it's there. Yeah, it definitely.
Whoever wrote that scene,
total commentary,
and got it through, was just like, oh, someone's gonna get this. Like the people around the table, I imagine read it was like, oh, this is a funny scene. Somebody read it was like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, real funny.
Yeah, real funny. That's great, man. Listen, when they started with this scene, I was like, okay, Preacher is not playing right now. They're not playing. They're like, look, if y'all going to cancel us, you're going to cancel us going all out then. Just go ahead then. So good.
They don't pull punches, and that's what I really respect about the show.
And mind you, at this point, I didn't know who was coming to get him. It still didn't click.
Really?
Until the footsteps.
I shouldn't say really, because if you didn't get it, you didn't get it. But I'd seen that coming because Satan told the saint to go get the two people that he was looking for. I mean, he kind of laid it all out. But I don't know. You were expecting just a regular parent to show up?
No, it was like a switcheroo. What I thought was I think it was just such a switcheroo, their conversation, that I wasn't even in Preacher world anymore. It was just this funny go-between between these two people and him being like, what? I wasn't even thinking about who was coming. Then I hear their twist. I'm like, oh, of course. Of course. This is going to happen right now. So then I was like, okay. Now, there's a part that's about to make me a little uncomfortable. I'll tell you in a minute. It made me uncomfortable.
I have a feeling I know what you're talking about. But at this point, the administrator at the facility comes in, and she's going to introduce Eugene to his new foster parent. And guess, like we said, it's the Saint of Killers. As they're leaving, the lady wants the Saint to do some paperwork to finalize the whole deal. And she basically gets thrown through a wall hard, super hard.
I did not like that. Dude.
I thought that's what it was going to be. They've had a couple of scenes on this series, particularly this season, actually, where women are getting, like when Christina, his mom, got slapped by Jody and her face just goes into the side of that bus window. That was pretty brutal too.
Gee, that was brutal. This one was just like, because she's an older woman and he throws her through a wall. I'm like, couldn't you have made it a guy, a big dude or something? I guess we were supposed to be like, oh snap. I didn't have that reaction. I was just like,
I think they put the comic relief in right after that too, because the kid goes, lucky son of a bitch. Like he would rather leave with that than stay at this facility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now so we are to assume that he didn't know who Saint was. Arseface.
Yeah, but I think he had a very good feeling of who he was and where he was coming from, which is what he tells him, because he, outside of the facility, he tells him that, he says, you're not here to adopt me, are you? You're not here to adopt me, are you? And he goes, Saint tells him that he has taken him back to hell, or he knows that he's getting taken back to hell. And he wonders why God would let him there in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, why would he even get me into this position? And the Saint lifts him up like the Saint always does. And he tells him, God ain't got nothing to do with it. So Eugene tells him, God has something to do with everything, my friend. And then he asks him to put him down because he was pulling on his chest hairs. I found that kind of funny. So the next, and this is just in the opening still. So when they leave, you see them walking side by side, something like you were just talking about right now, about the height situation. And he's telling him that he has one more stop to make before he takes him back to hell. He says, make all the stops you need. Let's see where this story takes us. And the Saint of Killers is like, it takes us to hell. And then we get our intro. So when we get back from the intro, Steve, we've pretty much been left right where Cassidy, and he's still on the floor, in fact, where Eccarius wakes him up and says, hey, welcome to Les Enfants du Sang. I'll never say that right. Mm-hmm. All of the posers around them in unison say, children of blood. Now, I have to bring up the fact that I recently, just to kind of refresh, I read Cassidy's Blood and Whiskey, which is a one-off. It's a really quick read. I recommend you guys, if you haven't read it, or if it's been a long time since you've read it and you have it, reread it again, because this is a completely different character that we're working with here. I will get to that at the end of the show. I'm going to just read what we've seen on the show so far, but I have some, I don't want to say strong feelings about it, but there are some major differences in this character. So we'll get to that, okay? Just bear that in mind. Mm-hmm. All right. But yeah, Cass he's not feeling this whole situation, which is similar to the comic. He's not down with the whole fake vampire thing, and he's already annoyed with this guy. It's better if he tells you guys. So here comes the first audio clip of the day. This one is Cassidy talking to Les Enfants du Sang. Here we go.
So you all want to be vampires, huh?
More than anything.
Yeah, right. You all want to be hated, spat on, chased down by arseholes. Have everyone you ever loved and cared about, they get old, they just die and leave you on your own, You get so bloody bored, you drink engine coolant, just to feel something new, all right? Is that what you want, you bunch of bloody posers, is it?
You have us wrong. This is a collection of men and women dedicated to protecting the ways of the night. I am their lord. They are my children. I'm no poser.
Oh, no, it's not poser like that. It's poser, isn't it?
Kevin?
Mima, not now. We're busy.
Sorry, didn't know you had guests.
So Meemaw didn't know that he had guests. Little Kevy was having a party downstairs. Like I said, we'll get to the differences at the end, Steve, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But how are you with the way this is playing out so far? Are you digging the story?
I thought it was clever how I thought it was I thought what they were doing was it was a actual soundtrack to the show. Until he says, can you please stop playing the piano? I was like, oh, it's someone there playing it. Like, it made you think, oh, this is just the soundtrack. Until he was like, can you stop playing with the piano? I was like, oh, snap, that's funny. He, jumped out of the show real quick and was like, hey, chill with the... And then you see the guy playing the piano in the scene. I was like, oh, that is so funny. because because the sound like it was actually over the show. And I thought that was funny. Obviously, Joseph Gilgan is killing. I think I'm very eager to see what they do with Antonio Banderas here. I don't know why
he really does look like him, man.
It's weird, dude. It's an homage to that movie.
I would tend to agree with you. Yeah, I would.
No question, because he is a quintessential vampire. Antonio Banderas in Interview with a Vampire is what you think a vampire looks like. That's what you would be if you were 300 years old or whatever. And so I think it's really fun to see it, and there's a scene that comes out later that he says something to Cassidy that being the way that he is, being the way that Antonio Banderas is, the guy is Icarus, you would think, or Eccarius, you would think, wow, that was very odd coming out of him. We'll get to it, but the way that he is, when he actually has a, pardon the phrase, a human moment, you're like, it strikes you even more differently. You're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. He's lonely. But right now, Eccarius seems so free-willing and life is wonderful. So I think the way they're setting it up, when he does have the human moment, it really hits you a lot harder.
I like that you keep calling him Antonio Banderas, because every time I see him, I think that. But
it's just weird. Yeah. I wonder if the guy looks like him.
No, not really. I'm actually looking at him now. I was going to give him some credit because I don't have his name memorized. The actor that plays Eccarius is Adam Crosdell, by the way.
Oh, so he doesn't look like Antonio Banderas.
No.
Without the makeup.
No.
Okay.
And I personally, I don't think he looks exactly like him. I just think it's very reminiscent of that character, that style of vampire from the Anne Rice series. You know what I mean? But I know exactly what you're talking about because I think it every single time. So Cass tells Eccarius that, there's nothing that he could do that he hasn't seen 100 times because, Eccarius wants him to be welcomed and he wants to welcome him rather, and he wants him to be part of this whole thing. But Cass isn't having it. And he's telling him there's basically nothing that you can do that I haven't seen 100 times that's going to impress me because you're a poser, sir. Eccarius then decides he's a little rash, I think, because, when the scene opens up, we see that pet owl that's on the perch. And he's obviously put some money into his perch. He's invested in the glove that the bird lovers have. I don't know what those guys are called, but the ones that have, when you're carrying the hawks and whatnot, there's that little glove that they perch on your arm. He's got all this equipment. And to prove his point, Eccarius just basically, he swallows the pet owl. He's like, see.
Which was strange.
Yeah, he just puts it all the way down. Owl didn't really put up much of a fight. I mean, what are you going to do? You're getting eaten by a vampire, but he says, see, brother, I'm no poser. And I'm like, that's a little rough, man. You could have done so many other things, but you got to kill an owl. So already he'd be on my bad side. I like owls, even though they're vicious as fuck.
Well, here's the funny thing. The best part about this was Cassidy's reaction. Literally nothing. He's like, yeah, this is not impressive. I would have been like, dude, what the piss?
Yeah.
But Cassidy just kind of looks, was like, okay.
I think he's just like taking a little mental note of it and trying to be like, I'm not impressed. But I think he was, in fact, impressed. And I think that as the show moves along, Eccarius does end up getting to him. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
What do you think, Steve? Before we move along, should we just break down the differences here or should we do it at the end of the show?
We can do it at the end.
Okay, fair enough. I'll move along. So now we're at Grandma's house. We're always at Grandma's house. And this is the continuation of the fight that broke out at the end of that last episode when they were all... That they were saying that we need a soul, and they were trying to make Tulip the victim, basically. They all got up and they started throwing down. And we see now what the room's like. Jesse is also on the floor. He's unconscious. But in the parlor, TC flips on the soul extractor. He flips the switch, and Tulip has a gas mask on. All kinds of shit's going down. She's also unconscious. Jody he's got an antler sticking out of his back. He just pulls that thing out. And then TC, who is still cuddling with the alien grandma. Ooh, I have some information that we should probably share with the people, just in case they were thinking like I was. Real quick, guys. Sorry to go off on a tangent. I don't know if I was the only one. I don't think I was the only one. But getting back to the whole scene last week where Grandma throws TC off of him, I was under the impression that TC had an erection. And she was like, oh, you're taking it too far, TC. So she throws him off. And Steve was under the impression, and several other people were under the impression that he didn't have one, and that's what pissed Grandma off and threw him off. So, what do you do when you answer these questions? You want to go to the source. So we actually, on Twitter, we got a hold of the director. And we asked her what her thoughts were on this, since she was the one that directed the show. And it turns out that Steve was, in fact, correct. TC couldn't produce. He wasn't able to get it up. Can't say I blame him. He was with Grandma. But basically pissed Grandma off, and she throws him off. So that's why I think TC was feeling shame and kind of like crawling up to her for forgiveness. But I completely thought it was just, I got a chubby, and she got grossed out and threw me off. So there you go. So if there was any question about that, now you know.
The big thing for me was he couldn't get it up because he is into freaking Tulip. Because remember, he just didn't want her to kill Tulip. So he's like, let's just, let's go have some fun.
You think that's what it is? Because he's able to get it up, and we now know that he's able to get it up for animals.
But we know that he used to be able to get it up for Grandma, because otherwise she wouldn't be surprised. Tulip was the difference. She was the difference.
I think you're right, because I didn't even see that. So I'm going with your story. Maybe he is. I mean, can you blame him? You know what I mean?
Dude, don't get me started. I'm not going to do it today.
Hey, next week, spoilers from the preview. What do you think of Tulip in the Grail suit?
Oh, dude, come on, man.
She looks badass, huh? I'm not even mad that that's not part of the original story.
I think all of them together look dope. All of them together look pretty freaking amazing in those suits. I'm just being real. It's just it's a
badass suit.
To see someone else look. Dude, it's so iconic at this point, and they really did a good job that if you've ever even tangentially seen Preacher, if someone else has that outfit on, you're going to be like, oh, it's kind of like the Grail. Yeah. They really cornered the market on that.
I see some cosplay coming.
Oh, yeah.
Should have already been that way. I'm surprised that we didn't see any of that at San Diego Comic-Con, but that would have been dope to see a group of people strolling down the way with that white and red.
It's so easy. It's so easy. That would be the perfect cosplay because it's cakewalk. A white suit, red shirt. Or a white suit, white shirt, red tie?
White suit, white shirt, red tie, I believe. No. Okay. Is it that? Yeah. It sure looks dope, though. That's all we know. Yeah.
So there goes my life as a CIA agent. They were like, what was he wearing? Black suit, red tie. Wait a minute.
I would be the worst at that, bro. He was like black or Chinese. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, one of the two. I think he had an African shirt on. No. I'll be like, just shoot everybody in the building. You'll definitely get him, for sure. Promise you that.
You'll get him eventually if you just get everyone. That's funny.
Okay, I just text messaged you something. They they favor each other, dude.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they definitely, what Steve just sent me right now.
Strange.
Tell him what you sent me, buddy.
Pretty weird, dude. I just sent a picture of Adam Crosdale and Antonio Banderas, like a younger Antonio Banderas. They favor each other heavily.
There's definitely a similarity. Looking at these two pictures.
And I think, dude, here's what in my imagination, what happened was they were making a vampire out of Adam Crosdale. They were just doing his hair, and someone was like, you know who he looks like? And they went from there. They're like, he kind of looks like Homeboy.
I got to try to put up a picture of the two of them together, like Antonio Banderas in the movie next to him.
How similar are they, dude?
I'm not entirely sure, but again, I instantly thought Antonio Banderas. So there's got to be enough similarity there to where it, multiple people.
I'll send it to you while you go through. I'll look for some stuff.
All right.
Later on.
Sounds good. So getting back to Grandma's house, Jesse now enters the room. So he woke up, and wherever he was, he comes into the room and he finds all this going on. TC and Jody let him know how it's going to be. But Jesse presents another option, and that's going to work better for everyone. And quite frankly, he was right about this. He wants to make sure that they know that Tulip is not to be played with and that she's actually worth a damn. So this is Jesse telling them what's up and presenting a plan to them. Let's see if they get it. Here we go.
This happening, kid. Ain't nothing you can do.
She brought it on herself, little Jesse. Now, I gave her some of my special number to make it as painless as possible, but the fact remains she tried to kill Miss Marie.
That's because Sabina told her to, you assholes. She's the one to be mad at. How long they got?
Her heart is hurt bad without her medicine. Less than a day.
Let me ask you a question. You want to buy Grandma some time by feeding her one soul? Or you want to save her goddamn life with a bunch of them? Because if you want to save her, we need to rob a bank.
You talking about Sabina's bank, the one she keep all her souls in?
Security up to yin yang. We tried it before.
I'm sure you have. But you didn't have Tulip before, did you?
Little Jesse's got a plan.
We listening?
Well, the first thing I think we need to do is kill them both. Tulip and Grandma. We kill them and we bury them.
I don't get it.
I do.
So Jesse, presented the idea of killing them both. And obviously he didn't mean that he really wanted to kill them both. We see that actually very soon because what we're seeing is that they've staged a funeral. We have these makeshift gravestones that they've made, crosses with Grandma and Tulip's name on them. And the reason that they're doing this is because Jesse's thinking 3 steps ahead. He knows that Sabina Boyd's crew is out there somewhere in the bushes, watching these guys, keeping an eye on them. And it works like a charm because that's exactly what they're doing. They report back to Sabina that their plan had worked and Jesse, in fact, killed his grandma and consequently Tulip too. And TC is still crying about it because the guy just loves a beautiful service. Tulip asks if he was the only one that cried, and Jesse's so like, funny. Yeah, just like, it's the 3rd time you died, Tulip. I'm all out of tears. Was it the 3rd time?
I know she died. Let's see. Saint killed her, right?
No, I think that might just be, I think we're overthinking it, but I think it was the only time she died was when she died the first time when Cass wouldn't turn her, or when Jesse wouldn't let Cass turn her, and then she died again when she brought her back. But 2, 3.
No, there might have been. Are you sure Saint didn't kill her?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay. Maybe
I'm sure if I'm wrong, someone's going to let me know. Please do.
Oh, for sure. Let us know. And also, here's the thing that's really dope about what happened with Jody. And this really put up antenna for me. Made my antenna go crazy. Whatever the saying is. I have antenna and it did something.
It did something.
So when Jesse says, we're going to kill them both, and no one got it except Jody, that showed how simpatico he and Jody are. It wasn't just Jesse that thought 3 steps ahead. It was also Jody because he knew what his plan was. So that was like, okay, they are connected.
Well, they raised him.
Exactly. And the fact that Jesse and Jody both thought so many steps ahead and they were on the same plane. I'm like, okay. So they have in this show, in my opinion, they're going to make it so that they have a bigger relationship than in the comic. They're going to like each other more than in the comic. I think they're going to be more connected. It's going to be a little bit harder if Jesse has to kill Jody. It's going to be hard for him to do that. I think they are more together than they are, because that's why I just said, I'm like, wait a minute. Judging from the show without ever having read the comic, they don't hate each other. It's not a hate thing. They could be in the same car together, do the same plans together, and it's not a hate fest.
Yeah, it's just like a weird abusive relationship.
Yes. He's like an older brother that's mean. That's what it is. He's a mean older brother. But the fact that he understood his plan, either A, they're just on the same wavelength, or B, they're like, oh, this is the old switcheroo we used to do. It's like something that they used to do before, but there's no reason they would ever do it before. So they just, out of nowhere, connected immediately, and he knew exactly what Jesse was talking about. So that's what, I was like, okay, they are on the same vibe, and there's a reason they wrote that into the show. I'm wondering where it goes from here.
I'm thinking that it's going to be very much like the way that I'm just making a prediction.
Yeah.
They have, like you're saying, they can be in the car together. They can, hash out plans together. They can get soft serve yogurt together, but then instantly on a flip of a switch, they start brawling down. It's always all about, is this going to be the time that you beat me? So it's almost like they've just had this competition since he was a kid. And it's just something that they do until he can do it. Almost like the backwoods Cajun catch the pebble from my hand, grasshopper kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Totally. And I don't think Jody, when Jody wants him to beat him.
Yeah, I think he does too.
That's why he keeps being like, not today, not today. He didn't say you never will. He just said, yeah, not today. Because he knows eventually, even if it's just because I'm so old you can beat me up, that Jesse has it in him to beat him up. He has it in him. It's just a fact of when. That's all.
I
think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, when he does beat him and he's supposed to kill him, I think it's going to take Tulip to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tulip doesn't want to. I wouldn't be surprised if she's like, I don't want to kill this guy.
I think there's something to what you're saying right here, but I still think that in the end, we're still going to get the same result. You
I
think it's just going to be, I think so. I think that they are going to die. Yeah.
They will. I don't think it's going to be by Jesse or Tulip's hand, though.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, Steve. Just as a gentleman's bet, I'm going to say that it stays very much the same and that Jesse, in fact, does the killing, just to make it fun. You're going to go ahead and say that it's going to be someone other than Jesse, correct?
Yes, someone other than Jesse. No. I'm going further. It's going to be someone other than Jesse and Tulip.
Who else?
Tulip can't do it. The thing is, Tulip has a heart that's bigger than Jesse's. She can't. Killing is not a thing she does lackadaisically, G. I don't think she especially likes it. Well, wait a minute. Has she killed anybody?
Tulip kills lots of people.
She does kill lots of people.
She kills a whole bunch of people.
No, but I'm saying she does. No, wait a minute. When did she kill a bunch of people?
Wait, are you talking about in the comic or on the show?
No, on the show.
Well, she killed some people at Madame Boyd's. She killed Gary at the casino with the pager thing, remember?
Yeah,
at the wedding chapel.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking, yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
Just to name a couple.
She's probably killed more people than Jesse, huh?
I think it's pretty close, but I would say she's probably the more vicious of the two in this story.
Oh, she's so dumb. Anyway, go on.
So at this point, Steve, we see Jody lean into Grandma and she whispers something to his, in his ear. And meanwhile, Tulip is asking Jesse if he remembers the job that they pulled in Las Cruces. I wanted to get to something about this. I don't know if this is what you were just talking about, but she says, remember what the job they pulled in Las Cruces? And she pulls this blonde wig out. It says, remember this? And Jesse's like, hell yeah, I remember this. I remember it too, Tulip. And he clearly has a thing for Tulip in this wig. And I have to tell you, Steve, I think I do too. More on that to come. But we finally get our blonde Tulip, kind of. Is this a little is this like a little,
No question.
A little tickle in the fancy for us? For the readers? I appreciated it.
Totally.
And Ruth Negga looks fantastic in a blonde wig. I'm going to tell you that.
She looked fantastic bald head.
Tulip tells him, all right, bitches, the clock is ticking. Let's go steal some shit. And now we know that we're going to get this awesome heist scene, which is exactly what happens. We get the heist scene where Tulip walks into the bank, and she's disguised as her, this character that she's created called Miss Pomerantz. I think it's like Marnie Pomerantz is the name that she uses. And she's wearing this blonde wig and this fancy kind of like almost like a 1950s, 60s kind of dress. She's looking good. And she's casing this place out. She's checking the video cameras, security guard situation, all of that. And we see her, she goes up, she meets with the banker. And the camera pans to this watch list as she's talking to the banker. And we see that not only she's on it, but TC and Jody are on it too. We saw that at the trailer for season 3.
You're like, they must be doing something together. You were right. They are doing something together.
They are, but I don't think it has anything to do with the wanted sign, the watch list. I think that
but it kind of is. It's still, though, technically you were right. There is just different order. They're doing something together. They also have a watch list instead of having a watch list because they did something together. Either way, they're working together.
Yeah. And that's coming soon. Maybe closer than we think. Probably next week.
Well, they're working together now.
I was thinking of the Grail suits, though, is where my brain was going. Sorry, I shouldn't have smoked crack before we did this. I wanted to get in character.
Yeah, no biggie.
Because Cash smokes crack, so I think it's cool now. And I'm going to smoke some crack. And if Dan wants to smoke some crack, he's gonna.
Exactly. And if he wants to do other things Cassie does, like kill things and drink their blood, hey, that's just going to be his thing.
At least I don't want to be like TC.
Bruh.
Could be worse.
Bruh. It could totally.
I could be at the petting zoo right now.
You make a great point.
So that's why I'm a good person, because I don't practice bestiality.
Exactly.
Welcome to the word. What a fucking show we're listening to today, right?
We have very loose rules.
So the banker leads her into the vault, and Tulip comments on the amount of security that the bank has because, they're all high tech and whatnot. The banker tells her that even though they're a small bank, their customers sleep better knowing that their valuables are safe. She's like, well, their customers must be sleeping great. The banker then accesses a lock that looks like one of those locks that you put your hand to and it reads your fingerprints. That's not the case. What it is, it ends up wowing Tulip because he licks it instead. And he explains to Tulip that the bank is using the newest in Asian technology. So I assume they Soul Happy A-Go-Go people are using this stuff, where each safe deposit box can only be accessed by the owner's saliva. Gross. Just nasty.
Ugh.
You know someone's not wiping that off every time.
Of course not.
It's disgusting. Germs are gross. So yeah, we deal with that, and that made me just kind of think about that one for a second. It's interesting, you know what I mean? But again, maybe it's just something with people sticking their tongues out in this episode, but I was like, ugh, when I saw that.
It's really gross, dude.
As she's leaving, she pushes the silent alarm on the desk. She pulls a G move right here. She acts like she forgot her glasses there, which she left there intentionally. She goes back to get said glasses, and while she's doing so, she's bending over just right. They didn't put this in, but I'm thinking the banker's checking it out, and what she's doing is she's hitting the silent alarm, which is a very smart thing to do if you're going to rob a bank. But we'll get to that in just a second. She asks what time that the bank closes, and the banker tells her that it's 5 o'clock sharp. The next scene, we have Hairstar and Hoover, and they're standing in this elevator, and Hairstar is expressing his concern because they still can't find Cassidy after Les Enfants du Sang took them, as they did last week. So they have a little conversation that goes down in the elevator, and I love Hairstar the way he talks, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in right now. And here it is. This is audio clip of Hairstar talking to Hoover. Here we go.
Any word yet on the vampire?
Still searching, sir.
How hard can it be to find an Irish demon carted off by a hooting pack of cape-wearing nobodies?
Well, it is New Orleans, sir.
I seek power, Hoover. Untrammeled authority to force this disordered world to its knees so it may weep and grovel at my jackboot.
Great.
In order to amass this power, I need to squeeze Jesse Custer. In order to achieve that squeezing, I need leverage. In order to gain said leverage, I need to...
Find the vampire. Yes, I'll reach out to my police contacts.
We can't use the usual channels. Old Father's watching us. He has eyes and ears everywhere.
He seems more fat than scary.
Don't be fooled. The Old Father is a cold killer. He makes me look like a conscientious objector. Do you know what I saw him do once to a man who had displeased him?
Transgressed, brother.
And that was for touching the All-Father's hot pocket. We are plotting a coup. Imagine what he'd do to us. I'm relying on you, Hoover. What is taking so long?
Yep. Forgot to push the button.
Hoover's an idiot.
He is. Classic Hoover, man. He's constantly just he's just a step away from death with Hairstar every single time that he's with him.
Gosh, he's dumb. Hairstar's considering it. I promise you. He's considering every second of the day pulling out his gun and putting Hoover out of his misery.
But they make him so true to the comic that way. He's just constantly bumbling. He's a little more nervous in the comic. I like that he's got this kind of he's almost like a Barney Fife. You know what I mean?
Yes,
if that's too old of a reference. He thinks he's doing a fantastic job, but he screws it up every single time.
And the thing is with Hoover, dude, are we back on? We're back on. Right?
Yeah, we're back on.
Okay. The thing with Hoover, dude, that was so funny to me is that the only reason he keeps Hoover and oh my gosh, what's Julianne Emery's character's name?
Featherstone.
The only reason he keeps Hoover and Featherstone around is because at this point they know so much about the plan that having to train 2 new people would be a pain in the... That is the only reason they're around.
Yeah,
they're so far in that he's like, I'd have to explain everything to everyone again. The only reason they're there is because I need you guys know enough now, and we're on crunch time. I don't have time to train anybody else about who Preacher is, what he has to do, all fathers. I don't have time for this. But if he did have time, he would have killed them both and just started brand new.
I just love his disgust for them both. You know what I mean? And she tries so hard. She tries so hard to win his affection, and he does not have any of it. So now we're back in Mima's basement again. It just sounds, that's a stupid sentence to say, by the way. But we're back in the basement, and Eccarius is addressing Les Enfants du Sang and asking which of them is prepared to lie back and take flight, as he puts it. They all volunteer, but he has his sights set on this dude named Deng, who comes up as this little effeminate Asian dude that wants to be a vampire. And he tells him he's going to meet up with him later that night at the ceremony. Cass is watching this whole thing in disgust as usual. He's just chilling by the washing machine as he's getting his clothes clean because, as we heard, his clothes were stinky. He's wearing one of Mima's robes. Eccarius goes up to Cass and asks if he's going to be joining them later at the ceremony, but Cass is like, nah, I'm good. I got a date with Bourbon Street. And Eccarius tells him that it's a shame, because he's waited so long to meet another one like him. Cass has several questions for Eccarius, though, and they all have to do with like his lineage and his lifestyle. And he's doing this for the purposes of like saying, hey, listen, I'm not like you. He asks Eccarius, aren't you like royalty? And he tells him, yeah, he's the 9th Earl of Saxon-on-Thames. I think I said that right. He plays mostly sonatas by Bach on his harp, all that shit that Cass isn't going to do. And he also speaks 19 different languages. Cass firmly lets him know that they're absolutely nothing alike. And Eccarius tells him that they are, because they're both ancient ones, night wraiths, travelers of the last dawn. And Cassidy calls him out on all that bullshit too and tells him he's a joke, he's a cliche. He also tells him that being a vampire sucks. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And this is when Eccarius suggests that perhaps he's been doing it all wrong. So again, I'm going to stress that at the end of this, it's not a disappointment to me or anything, but it's such a great difference from comic to television. I think it should be talked about, particularly on that sentence. What reminded me again, Eccarius telling Cass that he's doing it all wrong.
Yeah. And the big thing is, like, for me, Cassidy, I get it. Cassidy looks at him as, and this is why they made him look like Antonio Banderas. He is the cliche vampire.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to look like. And Cassidy's even like, are you putting this on to be that guy? Is that what you're doing? Because this is not how we do it. I don't have long hair, and we're just normal people. And I think that what really made Cassidy get disgusted, and it almost triggered everything into being fake, is when she's like, the grandmother came down and said, I didn't know you had company. And Cassidy's like, you live with we're in a basement of your like, that's when he was just like, okay, yeah, this is ridiculous. You guys are doing like some little, Dungeons and Dragons club down here. That's what you're doing. This isn't real. And so when dude comes up, he's like, no, we're ancient. He's like, no, this is ridiculous. This is a little club. This is a club you have going on here. And Cassidy, being that he's kind of in a depressive state, he really doesn't need this right now. He's like, I don't need to be doing this, man. I just want to be alone. And y'all are ill right now.
Yeah, he's like mourning the loss of his friends.
Yes. And the last thing he needs is Antonio Banderas coming in and being like, oh no, this is how I actually dress. He's like, no. But then Cassidy was right, because later on we see, oh, this isn't how the guy is. He breaks character later. So we shall see that.
He does. In this episode, he does?
Yes.
I'm not recalling the part. I guess we'll come up on it. But I think I'm so fixated on Cassidy Blood and Whiskey right now that I know what you're talking about, but I'm thinking of a different part. You know what? Let's just break down the differences real quick so I can get to it. So, guys, hopefully, if you don't want to listen to this, then you can just fast forward a little bit. I'm only going to talk for a couple of minutes, but the differences are great as far as Eccarius is concerned in this television show versus the comic. And you can get it all in Cassidy Blood and Whiskey. Like I said, it's a one-off, and I highly recommend you read it. And the differences is that in the comic, Eccarius is truly a poser. He's a vampire, but he's only been a vampire for about 10 years. And this, I believe he's older than Cassidy, and Cassidy's 119 or something like that. But he's way older. Again, he speaks all these different languages, and he's assumed this role as the head vampire. You know what I mean? In the comic, Eccarius is only doing these things because he was just this guy that got drunk one night, and he was walking down by the water. He looked into the water, and something pulled him in and turned him. A vampire turned him. He never got to know who the vampire was. So his only way of really getting about life and figuring things out was by reading books about Dracula, seeing Interview with the Vampire, all the cliche things that you see in movies, from not eating garlic to being afraid of crosses, not going into churches and things like that. He's showing Cass around the town, and Cass is just like, what are you doing, you idiot? He tells him, he slaps him in the head because he's like always saying stupid shit. Like, you really think you can't eat garlic? He's like, I love garlic. There's a place in San Francisco called the Stinking Rose that they cook all their food with it. I love garlic. I've been to that place. It's really good, by the way. But Cassidy just thinks he's a big joke and continues to think he's a big joke. And I'm not going to spoil the whole story for you. It's only I think it's maybe, 60 pages long or something like that. Really, really quick read. But Cassidy sees him doing something that he just, believe it or not, Cassidy has some morals, and he just cannot get down with this. And he ends up taking a different approach to how he handles Eccarius. I'm going to leave it at that right there. But Eccarius is way different in the comic, and he's very insecure with himself. He's listening to Cass. Cass is actually showing him how to be a vampire, and he takes him out. They go on this drunken night where they hit the town and they're like messing with Les Enfants du Sang, mooning them and shit like that. It's really funny. So I recommend you guys check that out. But I really wanted to bring that up because I don't know exactly where we're going with Eccarius in the television show, but nothing, absolutely nothing like that. In fact, I think that whole book takes place in a night, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's just one night that he's with them, and that's it. So we're obviously further into the story than that. I just wanted to bring that up. I'll move along now. Thanks for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dan with the history of Eccarius and Cass.
I'm Dan Riberas. That's my 2 cents.
I liked it. I didn't know. I haven't read that.
You really haven't read that one, dude? I don't have to get that one.
It. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hooking you up. You got your boy to take care of you, man. You know this.
Okay.
Outside the bank, my friend, Tulip is breaking the whole plan down for the heist that they're about to do. She does it so well. It's one of those really cool, pre-heist scenes where it's really fast-paced and everything. So, of course, your boy got you with another audio clip. This is Tulip telling them how they're going to do this and what they need to get it done. Here we go.
3 guards, Glocks. Bald guy's got an 870 shotgun. Dozen CCTVs, 6 fixed, 6 sweeping. Manager keys a safe door, then hits a 14-bit keypad.
In other words?
Piece of cake.
Seven-minute response time. Got enough time?
Wish it were more.
We can buy you some.
Okay. That means you got until 5 o'clock to get us some spit.
And we are back. Tulip sends the boys off to go get some spit.
Yes. And also, okay, in the great words of Kendrick Lamar, I got a bone to pick.
Pick that bone.
They didn't, for anyone who doesn't know what's going on, they did not explain this heist very well. Because what they came out with, I guarantee no one knew what the crap that was.
It's like, okay, that's good. So what do we do again?
Bruh, I guarantee people that are watching this show, the audience, I don't think we are supposed to know what they went in to get. But when they come out, we know the show, we know the comic. So when they come out with those vials, we know what that's all about. Bruh, I don't think the watcher would. They're like, wait, why was that in the bank? They should have explained that way better, bruh.
Well, they did kind of say that, I agree with you, by the way, but they did say that it was the Asian technology. So I guess they're just really expecting us to hold on to the whole happy soul to go-go thing.
Crazy. That is crazy to expect somebody to remember that.
Our viewers are smart. They're giving us way too much credit.
Bruh. I mean, Asian technology, I guarantee if you just didn't hear that simple thing, and they come out with, they're like, hey, you're going to be thinking, where'd you get those vials from? Wait, that's what you would, because you're thinking you're going in there for a totally different reason. And do you remember that Boyd had it in there? Do you remember that?
No, I didn't.
Gee, and we do a show on this show.
I think it was there. I think, quite honestly, we probably missed it, but I do say in our defense that they didn't really lay it out that well.
No,
you know, they are, like I said, they're giving us too much credit. They think we're smarter than we are.
Or they're just saying, you know what, skip it, the vial. Someone might have been like, we need to etch off about 20 minutes of show here. So let's just cut out, and if they'll have the vials, and they're just going to assume they got them from the bank randomly. Why would you keep those vials in a bank, G?
So you think that's left on the editing room floor?
No question, because why would you keep those vials in a local bank vault?
You got a point. So why do the show with you, man? You're smarter than me.
Know what I'm like, why would they even keep them there? You would keep them where you have armed people that almost protected you from getting shot. You would keep them there.
I feel like if we watched it again, it's right there in front of our face. But maybe not.
I don't think, because the smart thing would, you saw all those armed guards Boyd had?
Yeah.
You'd keep them there. Those guys are willing to kill. This guy licks something and it opens.
And there was one security guard.
Exactly. Keep it where there are a bunch of people with guns. That's where you keep that.
I mean, the only thing that you have the security of an actual bank vault versus like 10 huge dudes with guns.
With guns that are willing to kill you. A lot of people will be like, you know what, this ain't even worth it. And most people don't even know they exist. No one knows you have vials of souls in your house. So who is going to come for it?
Apparently they do in this universe, Steve. Everyone seems to be in the know that their souls, the souls are being vended throughout Louisiana.
Yes. And I would instead of a bank vault, just have them in an armed. And again, even that, though, we have to think through that situation because what we did was we saw the vials and we worked backwards. Oh, that's what they took from the bank. The vials. If you did not work backwards, a lot of people were just like, wait, what did they get from the bank then? I guess we have to assume they were those magical vials.
There they go assuming again, giving us too much credit.
Yes, but anyway, that's all. That was a bone to pick. I was like, dude, y'all gotta because if you just came out with the vials, you technically could have X'd out all that bank stuff and just said you stole them from Boyd. Because technically, the way it ended, you could have stolen it from Boyd and ended up taking her captive. That would have made way more sense. You go in, shoot up all of her guards, take her captive with her vials. Now she's ended up where she's ending up. That would have made way more sense.
I was gonna say when we get to that part, because it's coming up in just a few minutes here, maybe we'll find something in there that we can
yes, let's see. All right.
Pick it apart. Okay. Or unpack it a little bit further. We'll see how we do.
So weird.
So yeah, that's where we're at. Jesse took off. He's got to go get some spit. And we're going to get to that right in just a few seconds here, man. Which means that Steve was correct. And I will get to that in a few minutes. But right now we're talking about Star. We're back with Hair Star. And he steps out of this elevator and he's greeted by Featherstone. She's there to brief him, let him know what's going on. As soon as she's like, hello, sir. He's like, there goes my morning erection. Hating on Featherstone. She's a pretty girl. I don't know why he's like that. But then again, he's Hair Star. As Featherstone is briefing Star, he notices the word humper-doo-doo written on the wall. And while she's talking, he's like, is that shit? Yes, sir. He says, is it his own or is it Humperdoo's shit? She's like, yes, for the most part. So whose shit was it, Steve? Was it hers too?
That's a good question.
How would she know that?
How would she
know there's two types of shit?
It's true.
I'm just saying. I don't want to picture it, but I'm just wondering if maybe it was hers. Let's go to the listeners on that one. Whose shit was it? We'll do a poll on Twitter. That's what we're going to do. But yeah, she tells him, yeah, it's mostly Humperdoo's shit. But he's on a timeout right now. He's getting hosed down by Durando, the great Durando, before his ballroom dancing lesson. She also compliments Star on his new hat, which she describes as very cabaret. And of course, Hoover echoes her sentiment by saying that he takes it one step further, Steve, and he tells her that it's actually like the Liza Minnelli role. So now Star's looking at them both like, God, I hate the both of you. I just want to kill you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He then tells them he needs to be alone for a while, and he cuts them off as they're talking to him just by simply closing the door in their faces. And Featherstone is like at the process of going, oh, sir, one last thing. And he probably should have listened, but he didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Inside the office, Star removes his hat and reveals what we've all been waiting to see for some strange, morbid reason, which, of course, is the scar that's across the top of his head from the bullet that grazed him. That Tulip, actually, in the TV show, she shot him on the head. Can't really shoot him in the head, but she shot him across the head, maybe? Maybe that's a better way of saying it. She made a nice little divot in the top of his head, and now Hair Star has a head that resembles a dickhead. It's the truth, folks. I don't write this stuff. I'm just conveying the message to you. And he's touching the top of his head, and he's just like so disgusted by it. And he hears words he did not want to hear, which is, thrice blessed, O Star. He turns and he finds Allfather d'Aronique sitting at his desk with a special chair now. It's not the same chair, I don't think, because I don't think that would hold a 700-pound man. Getting back to Jesse, though, we find Jesse at the bar, because remember, he's got to get some spit, folks. The door opens up, and Sabina Boyd walks in, approaches him, sits down, and he's called her to meet with him. So he had this whole thing going on, this whole plan worked out. She tells him that she heard about what happened to his girlfriend, and that he probably blames her for it. And Jesse, trying to be clever, says, he tells her that if he thought it was her, he would have spit in her face. See, it's the power of suggestion, Steve.
Yep.
He'd also say that he'd break her neck before her goons could ever get to him. He also tells her that he doesn't think that she did anything and that he was the one that screwed up. Sabina, obviously still hurt by this, calls Jesse out about walking out on her and killing her brother, small details, of course, and that she should spit in his face for it. Jesse's like, yes, do this. Jesse tries to egg her on to do so by telling her, well, then go on then, spit in my face, you bitch, and then we can all call it even. But Sabina tells him that she'll spit on his grave. And she makes to leave. Jesse's like, shit. So he's got to flip his script a little bit. He recognizes that he has to do something drastic, so he changes gears, and he shoots for a little bit of pity by telling her that he has nothing to live for, also reminiscing about their past and everything, trying to get to her soft spot. Sabina tells him that he was the first boy to take her on a shoplifting date, So how romantic is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jesse tells her that she was the one that turned him on to Johnny Cash. They're making connections here. They're reviving it. You can feel the heat coming on, Steve. And then he gives the final blow by asking her, would it make him the worst person in the world if he kissed Sabina on the same day he buried his girlfriend? She tells him it would, but when Jesse returns to the car, we find out that she was still down with it, Steve, because he gets into the car.
Yep.
And now, here's the thing. Did he know that he was going to do this all along? Because he has a tongue scraper with him. He wasn't going for any tongue scraping. So maybe that was just his plan B? Or was he But is he being selfish? And I'm giving you the point to Steve Hudson, because you did call that he would eventually kiss Sabina. So was this his way of killing two birds with one stone? You know what I mean?
He's into Sabina still.
He's got it tight. We've established this.
Yes, he's into Sabina. The thing is, the hard thing, let me tell you a story, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you a little story. The hard thing about letting someone go is if there's not closure. He didn't have closure with Sabina. He let her go because he thought it was the best thing to do. But he never technically got closure with Sabina.
Very true.
So I think there's a little bit of something hanging over which is, and the good thing is, that's going to come to, I think it's going to aid Sabina later on. The fact that he never had closure with her and that he loves her still. That aids her later on.
Yeah, what happens later explains a lot.
Yeah.
So Jesse gets in the car and he pulls out this tongue scraper, and Tulip's like, she was supposed to spit in your face. And Jesse explains he had to improvise, of course. But again, very clever that he had a tongue scraper on him. We're not, you know what, there's a lot of credit that's not being given to multiple people on this show, folks, and we're not giving it to Jesse, apparently. All right, so everything I'm about to tell you right now is very much in that rapid fire. This is the bank heist, and we get a whole bunch of different shots here, so I'm just going to go ahead and read them off as I saw them, but just understand that it's just back and forth and back and forth. The first one we have is TC and Jody pull up. We got some cool heist music going on, and Jody asks, this is the part that everyone loved. He says, you need me for this? TC replies, not really. I usually do better with some privacy. And TC asks what Jody will be doing while he's doing what he's about to do, and Jody says, something for Miss Marie. TC exits the truck, and he sans pants. You see these veiny calves that are there, and just ahead of him, we see that there's this petting zoo, this unsuspecting petting zoo, or maybe all of the sheep are just like, oh shit, here he comes. They're all out in front. We also see that TC has an ankle bracelet on, so he must be under house arrest and violation at that moment. Maybe we'll get to that, but just something I noticed, he does have a house arrest ankle monitor on. Then we see Jesse and Tulip, and they're masked, and they make their way into the bank, and the alarm sounds. We then see a couple of police officers. This was the funny part to me. They're responding to the bank robbery, so they're hauling ass down the road, and the dispatcher gets on the radio to inform them that a man has entered the petting zoo. Officer responds, "Dispatch, we are responding to a bank robbery. Who cares if some guy walks into?" And the dispatcher's like, "Listen to me, Bill. It's TC." They turn around and they start hauling ass back to the petting zoo. So they know damn well what TC's capable of.
Of course.
Man, I'm just mumbling like crazy today, guys. Sorry about that.
You're doing great.
My lips are just getting stuck together, Steve. I'm having troubles. In another part of the rapid fire scene, we see Jody pull up to Sabina's her headquarters, the London Lodge, and he pulls out his gun and he approaches the building. And off camera, we hear gunfire and glass shattering. And then we go back to the bank, and this is where we see a security guard, the one security guard. He gets tossed through the glass window because he was useless as hell. We all knew this was going to happen, and he's followed by the still masked Jesse and Tulip as they're making their way out to the getaway car. And then we see TC. This is the best part of it all, man. We see TC, and he's running down the street with this goat on a leash. And this is the pixelated dong that we were talking about, swinging in the breeze. And someone put on Twitter, actually it was Preacher, the show, put it on Twitter, like, okay, they put the GIF up, and they said, make us laugh. And there's some really funny ones to read there if you want. I don't have any of them handy. I think my submission was something like, because it just shows him running with the pixelated dong and the goat. And I think I did something like... And right then, I knew it was going to be a fantastic summer. But there are some much better ones than that on there. So check that out on there. Then we get back to Sabina's again. And Jody pulls away. And we see that he shot and possibly killed every single person in that building. So I guess that's sort of a moot point now, right? We can't use them anymore, Steve, because they're dead. So we got to use the bank.
Yes.
We go to commercial at this point. And when we return, we get a series of these close-up shots that go back and forth between Hairstar and the Allfather. The painful smile that Hairstar has to make competes with the dead stare of the Allfather. Hairstar welcomes the Allfather, and he gets a few fun facts as well as a dining invitation from the Allfather right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put this audio clip in. We're almost done with the audio clips, but it's the Allfather and Hairstar. You got to hear the conversation. Here we go.
I wasn't expecting you. But we are honored to have you here in New Orleans. Have you sampled the local cuisine? Perhaps you find it a little light for your liking. Not enough sauces.
Your head looks like a penis star.
Yes, work injury.
Do you know the symbol for the Crusaders of Jerusalem?
Sword? Lance, perhaps.
His spurs.
Of course. I knew it was something metal.
The horse, you see, was the greatest asset a knight had. The thing which he entrusted his life with. So if his horse ever stumbled and fell, well, that was a very sad day.
I can imagine.
The knight couldn't just shoot his steed in the head and be done with it. That would lack the requisite ceremony. The noblest, most God-fearing crusader had no choice but to eat his horse. We have much to discuss, Hairstar. But first, we eat.
So you hear the ringing of the bell, and this Grail chef comes out, and he wills out the entire torso of a roasted horse. Now, I hear this is a delicacy in some parts of the world, but that thing was not cooked right. You could tell. They use that, you can hear like this, the cutting on the audio clip. You can hear like
and the blood,
and the blood.
The blood.
It's way too rare. I don't recommend it, but you know what? Horses are my thing. Have you ever had a horse, Steve? Of course you haven't.
No, I have not. And I don't recommend people eat dead animals at all, personally.
Well, I highly recommend the opposite. Have a steak today.
Hey, bruh, if you're okay with eating sentient beings, that is awesome. That's awesome.
I'm going to eat a turducken in your honor. Just to prove my point. I like meat. All right.
Uh-huh.
So Hairstar is disgusted by this horse thing. You know he doesn't want to eat it, but what's he going to do? That's his boss. He has to do it.
Totally.
Getting back to more rapid fire, we find Cassidy and Eccarius now, and they're soaring through the sky, much like Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder in Superman.
Almost exactly like it,
yeah. They just missed the cheesy song, and I think they should have gone for that. I think that was a moment that people would have laughed at, myself.
Of course.
Eccarius is intending to show Cass what he's been missing. He's been missing out on all this shit, flying and everything else that's about to come. As they land in this alley, Cass is still trying to not be impressed. He's acting like he's not impressed. The dude just flew. He's impressed.
Exactly.
But he tells Eccarius that there are other ways of getting high, and he asks him if he wants to go into a bar. In a mocking tone, Cass makes fun of Eccarius' drink, though, because his preference of drink was a ginger ale. And he asks him how he goes about getting laid, meaning that he's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
He said he's more like what did he say? I said he was like a weird, more boring George Washington. More of a visual joke, but I get it.
Yes.
It's definitely a visual joke. Eccarius says that he does all right. He gets his. Cassidy mocks him again. Oh, yeah, you do all right. He's like, I forgot about your children with the pretend teeth. And he tells him to observe as he's going to put the moves on this young, attractive woman that's sitting across the bar, who's sitting with this older guy. So he goes over to her and he's like quickly shot down. You don't hear what he says, but he walks right back with his tail between his legs and informs Eccarius that it didn't work out because she's there with her dad. But Eccarius is not to be outdone. And he says, no, check this out. So he does the whole vampire thing where he goes, attractive woman, come to me. And the woman automatically gets up and approaches him, and they begin to kiss, much to Cass's amazement. But soon after, the woman's father comes up too, and Eccarius just starts making out with this guy too. So he's just telling him, like, I can do pretty much whatever and whoever I want.
Mm-hmm.
Cass then admits that he's impressed. In the blink of an eye, Eccarius disappears, and he's leaving Cass standing there with the two people that he was just making out with, that Eccarius was making out with. And the woman calls Cass a perv, and then she leaves with her dad. So Cassidy is assuming that Eccarius can make himself invisible now because he heard his voice, but he didn't see anything. And he's like reaching out.
He was impressed. Dude. Cass was like, oh my goodness. Like, that was the most impressed Cass has been this whole show.
Yeah. He hears this.
Like, hey.
He actually, that's when he admits it finally, because he hears the disembodied voice and he's like reaching around. And he looks down and discovers that Eccarius had shapeshifted into this little small black cat. And that's where he actually gives his little thumbs up. He's like, that's bloody cool.
Yes.
So later that evening, Cass and Eccarius leave the bar after the fun that they've had in there. And Eccarius thanks Cass for a lovely evening and invites him to, look him up again if he wants. So as he's turning to make he's acting like, yeah, I know I impressed you. I think he did this perfectly. He kind of trapped Cass, if you ask me. He sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? He gave him the bait. And Cass totally took the bait. You know what I mean? So as he's turning to make his way into the night and do more cool vampire shit, this is where Cass is like, okay, I give. He's like, all that in there with the powers and all that. How are you doing that? And this is where they go back to Eccarius' lair. And this is where that whole ceremony's going because, as you recall, a Mandang is about to get, he's going to get vamped out. Eccarius asks him if he accepts what it's about to become. And if I forgot exactly how he put it, but it's like, will you live by the vampire code? And Dang's like, hell yes, sign me up. At that point, you see Eccarius like vamp out. He like goes to him super fast and bites into him, and he turns him right there on the spot. Dan gets up and he starts to do this like I can't even do it. I can't even make the pitch.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but it's outside of yourself, Steve. It's one of the higher laughs I've ever heard before.
Oh, man, I have a high laugh.
I was gonna say you should do it, Steve, but that's cool. But yeah, he's shrieking with joy because now he's a vampire, and he takes out his vampire teeth and he walks over to this aquarium that apparently holds all of the other fake vampire teeth. This has been done many times before. He puts them in there, and Cass is just like horrified by this, and he calls out Eccarius. Because in Cass's eyes, he's damning his band of morons, as he puts it, to be able to like flit about. How do you say it? He says something like, "You're damning your band of morons to be able to flit about the sky and turn into cats for laughs." And he tells him that he's going to rip his head off. He takes a series of swings at him, and this is where Eccarius gets all like Matrixy on him, and he's like just dodging everything that he's doing, slow motion. Very, very Neo is what I'm getting at.
Yes, you know what it reminded me of Sherlock Holmes. The Robert Downey Jr. one, where he's like calculating everything that's happening.
Maybe more like that. I think you're right. So eventually Cass finally realizes that he can't do anything. He can't punch him. So Eccarius kind of lays it out for him and addresses his concerns and gives his take on the whole thing. And here's an audio clip for that. He's telling Cass that he's looking for a friend. Here we go.
Did you feel damned as you flew among the stars tonight?
Look, turning people, it's wrong. Trust me, I know about it.
And this person that you brought through, or turned, as you put it, were they a good person?
He was my son, all right?
And was he a good person?
All right, actually, he was a bit of a dick.
Yeah. Each of the people that I select is not only a willing participant, but a good person, willing to honor and protect our traditions.
All right. You know what? Fair enough. It's not my cup of tea. I don't like it, all right?
No, don't go. There's more than what you've seen so far. There's things that I want to share with you.
Why? Why do you need me? You've got this thing going on here, and it's clearly working out for you. What do you need me for Christ's sake?
I was looking for a friend. Aren't you?
You know, I got enough friends, all right?
So at this point, I think Cass is just fighting it. I think he's way impressed. And he's just not wanting to latch on to anyone else because he's just told him, yeah, I have enough friends. We'll see where that goes. But I think that's exactly what it is. It's more of like Cass being in denial and possibly infatuation. I'm thinking he's kind of infatuated by him, to be honest with you.
He's very impressed by everything that he sees, that human blood does make you very strong. There's no question. I think I think that's what's changing the game for Eccarius. He gets a consistent flow of human blood and makes him stronger. Cass can't do all that stuff, but you did see him break when he's just like, I just want friend. I just need a friend. I guarantee that's the real Eccarius. He needs a friend, and he's just putting on this thing to be, this, I'm the leader. But outside, he wants a friend. Like he really wants a friend, just like any other person does.
Yeah, and much like the vampire struggle, the people that are around him, are eventually all going to get eaten. You know what I mean? And and either way, even if that wasn't the case, they're all going to die in a matter of years, which is going to be like a snap of, it's a lifetime is a snap of the fingers to a vampire. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he wants someone that he can consistently live, for lack of a better word, with for the rest of his
that he
existence.
Hasn't turned.
Right.
Like the people that don't follow him. He needs someone he
doesn't want an ass kisser.
Follower me. Yes. He wants someone that's just like, I need a friend, someone that is outside of my circle. And he found one in Cassidy. And I don't think it's the last time we're going to see Cassidy and Eccarius.
No, definitely not. So we're heading back to Angelville again. And back at Grandma's, she's continuing to die. She's not looking good. Jesse gets there and opens up the briefcase marked with the Japanese writing. And again, I assume that is the Japanese, the Happy Soul Go-Go. It has to be. He begins to hand TC the soul vials, as I've called him. And TC just starts busting off the caps, and not busting caps, but taking off the cap of the vial and pouring it into Grandma's mouth. This is where Pedro was talking about. She does the little tongue thing, you know what I mean? The gross tongue thing. But TC's like, here you go, Miss Marie. Here's your medicine. And he's just feeding her. She's like, she's taking him down. Tulip comments that there aren't that many souls to give her. And Jesse knows this, but he says that it's going to be enough to keep them both alive for now. As TC continues to feed these to Miss Marie, you can see as she's slowly beginning to recover. And that's exactly where the whole tongue thing happens. But in the next scene, we find Cassidy again, bouncing around Louisiana. He's ended up in the New Orleans crack house. So he went from good to worse very quickly. He's by himself, and he's getting his crack smoking on. He takes a hit, very detailed, by the way, like the close-up of that, you know what I mean? It was very kind of almost flirtatious with it, in fact. And he takes his hit, and he sits back, and he starts to sing this song to himself. As soon as the song's done, he gets a call from Tulip, who's just, calling to check in on him. And he's surprised to get this call, but he's just off in his crack haze, if you will. And he's just listening to what she's saying, but he's really not having that great of a conversation with her. Tulip's telling him what she's been up to. She tells him about the fight with Jody and TC and how Jesse's, was staying in the coffin for a while. Then he escaped from it, how she killed Grandma, but she got better. All this stuff she's talking about. And Cassidy's just sitting there with this, I don't even know if he's blinking at this point. He's just kind of like, Tulip, being Tulip, can tell that Cassidy isn't all right by his responses that she's given him, and she guesses correctly that he is in fact in a crack house and smoking. She tells him that he needs to wise up and knock that shit off and get his shit together, because when they get out of there, they're coming back to get him, so they can hit the road again and be the trio. And so get better, Cass, and hang in there is what she's telling him. But then Cass tells Tulip that he's been around for 119 years. And that he's seen so many people, just like what I was saying, seen so many people come and go, that he doesn't really hang in there for anyone. And he just moves on. And then he just hangs up on Tulip.
Oh, dude. And the thing is, Tulip was telling these stories, and Cassidy was like, oh, so you guys are just doing what you've been doing. You're just doing that thing with Jesse again. With the bull crap, running in circles, silliness. And it wasn't, Tulip didn't know how to just say, Cassidy, how are you? I miss you. This was her way of saying it, but Cassidy needed to hear, I miss you. That's what she needed. That's what he needed. He needed Tulip to say, I miss you, I'm coming to get you, we need to be together. Anything short of that, Cassidy was like, I'm done. I'm done with whatever the crap game y'all are playing over there. Because all it was is rehashing crap that they've already been through in Cassidy's head.
Right.
We've done these things before for the last 3-4 years. So you guys are still doing it. Yeah, Jesse's in a coffin. Who cares why? Because of course Jesse was in an underwater coffin and got out. Of course. Of course she killed Grandma. She came back alive. Cassidy's like, I'm done. I'm done. You guys have your little cartoon exploring. I am finished. And Tulip felt that.
Do you get the feeling that she actually wanted to tell him that she missed him?
Totally.
Because her conversation was awkward. You can know she was kind of like just grasping for things to say, oh yeah, and then there was this, and then there was that. But I think it was all, masked of, I miss you, man. I want you back.
Yeah, I want you back. Because the thing is, now, every time they do something amazing, Jesse's off to, okay, now that we did this, we need to do that. There's no one where you do something amazing, then you talk about what happened that day. You lay in a bed and talk to Cassidy, be like, man, remember when that thing happened today? That's not Jesse. All Jesse's thinking about is, okay, now let's get the results of what happened today into the hands of whoever we need to get it into the hands of. There's no one to reminisce with about what actually happened. Wasn't that crazy? Tulip has no one for that. All she's doing is helping Jesse so that whatever Jesse needs to do, Jesse does. There's no one to just talk about, oh my gosh, did you see the size of that alligator? Nope, no one. That's what Cassidy gave her.
Getting back to Christina's email, dude, I think she might be onto something. You know what I mean? I think that we're not done with the love triangle for sure.
No, she needs like, she's going to have to eventually pick. Do I want a friend that I fall in love with? Or do I want this person that has been inextricably in my life for the last 20 odd years? We know each other like the back of our hand, but we're going to keep in some form repeating the same thing for the rest of our lives. If it's not this, it's going to be something else. Once he finds God, it's going to be something else after that. We're going to always be doing this thing. Do you want that, or do you want to live a life that, yeah, he's going to outlive you, but at least you know for the time that you spend with him, it's all about Tulip. That's it. I swear, like, even if they're only together for 4 years, those 4 years, Cassidy's going to be all about Tulip. That's it. And anyone who touches Tulip is going to face the wrath of Cassidy.
Do you think that it's going to be, like, as long as the show continues, that there's going to be this love triangle? Because I'm starting to kind of think that maybe with Cassidy learning these newfound powers that he's capable of, and even though the story's different from the comic, but what I'm saying is, in regards to the show, he learns about all these powers that he has. He learns that he's, you know, he is a vampire. He is, in fact, a night wraith, or whatever it is that they put it. Maybe he's just going to go so hard with her, he's going to hurt her feelings intentionally. Much like Jesse did to Sabina. And maybe not killing anybody, but you know what I'm saying? To make her hate him, so that way this story can continue.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if he turns full vampire, he goes on a killing spree, and like Tulip is reading newspapers and seeing that there's someone that is just killing people in New Orleans. And Jesse's like, no, we got to find God. Tulip's going to be like, no, we don't. We have to save Cassidy. That's what she's going to do. In my opinion, if that happens, she's going to say, we know, because I guarantee when she hears stories, she's going to know it's Cassidy. She'll be like, I know who's doing this. And the only reason he's doing this is because it's my fault. That's the reason he's doing it is me. I need to go save him. Jesse's going to still be on no, we got to find God. And that's something like that is going to cause her to make the decision of, I need to pick Cassidy this time.
It's not a bad story arc, actually, but if they do that, they're going to have to make it a temporary thing, because both the comic and the TV show Cassidy are consistent about only utilizing humans, or human blood rather, for when it's necessary. They don't, he eats a burger. He just eats regular food. So I don't see that really changing, being that he's had that whole thing in him for like the last 119 years, where he's just been doing that just to sustain himself. But we'll see. But I think
depression will make you do crazy stuff.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I think that that's going to come from the depression of whatever the fallout from Jesse and Tulip have given him, and whatever happens with Eccarius down the road. He's going to hit this low point before he comes back up.
And the only person that's going to be able to bring him out of that. Here's what I'll say. Not the only person. If he gets into that low point, whoever brings him out of it is going to be his savior. If it's Eccarius, he's going to be loyal to Eccarius then. If it's Jesse, it's over. He's going to be loyal to Jesse. But if it's Tulip, Jesse has to watch out. Because now Cass will do anything. Cass will, because she brought him out of that low point. So it's whoever brings it. Hopefully it's Jesse and Cass, or Jesse and Tulip. But if Jesse goes off finding God, and Tulip's the one that brings him out of this rut, well then, no, it's over. And it's Tulip's fault, because she's pretty much saying, I chose Cassidy over Jesse. So now Cassidy's going to be like, you came here for me. Why would we go back to him? So maybe it's Eccarius that brings him out of the rut. Because if it is Eccarius, man, I'm interested to see what happens with those two then. They're going to go on a rampage.
Well, they're changing him up for some reason. They have him in there to serve a purpose for something. Because again, he's not just this one night event that happens.
For sure.
So
he might pull him out of this. He might.
I think we're going to find that. We're going to have to find that out relatively soon, too, because, we only have 4 episodes left. So they're going to have to do something. Wow.
Holy crap.
I know. I just said that 4 episodes.
Fast,
super fast. Yeah. All right. So back to the show. Right when Tulip hangs up the phone, or gets hung up on, to be more truthful, she's attacked from behind. She gets chloroformed and she's out. And then next we see that Grandma has bounced back nicely. She's looking good again. She was able to get her strength and put her wig back on, get some lipstick on. She thanks Jesse and tells him that his girl is clever, meaning Tulip, when it comes to robbing banks, and that, TC and Jody have been trying to rob it for years and have never even gotten past the teller. TC's like, yeah, it's true. We haven't. He's all proud of it. She then says that Tulip is not so bright in other areas, though, such as trying to kill her, which is all, that's going to rub anyone the wrong way. Jesse tells her that he gave her what she wanted, but Grandma corrects him and says, no. You gave me what I needed. You still owe a debt. And Jesse threatens Grandma about, going near Tulip. He says, like, if you go near her, he says something, I'm going to hurt you in some way or shape or form. But he gets knocked out again. He's always getting knocked out by TC. Of course. He's good at bonking heads. Grandma tells them to get her ready. So she's about to take Tulip down. We see a quick shot of Jesse waking up on the floor. I think he's in the tombs again. And then we move back to the house, and Tulip's strapped into a chair and she's gagged. Someone switches on the soul extractor, and we see this large IV needle being inserted. The soul is quickly extracted in its liquid state, and Grandma just tosses it back. And it's kind of like she's just doing like a mixed drink at the bar, doing shots or something like that. TC asks, what are we going to do with her now? And the camera pans to show that it wasn't Tulip after all that's in the chair. She was in the chair, but it was a different one. It wasn't her soul that was extracted at all. It was actually Sabina's soul that they took. And Tulip was forced to watch the whole thing. Just morbidly, I guess. There really was no reason for her to watch that. But Sabina is now in that kind of zombie-like state that they get when they take their soul away, very dazed, for lack of a better term. And Grandma says, she's strong. They're going to make plans to fight her in the tombs. And at that particular moment, that's when Jesse arrives. And he's not having that at all, because he knows for a fact, we all know, that you could be in there for decades in the tombs. You know what I mean? And he
loves her still.
And he still loves her. Exactly. So he does I guess it's a romantic thing to do. It's just, violent, but he basically puts 2 slugs in her and kills her right there on the spot. I didn't see that one coming. It was cool that he did that, but I didn't see that I didn't think that was how the story was going to end. But that's in fact exactly what happened. He tells them all that a person ain't nothing without their soul. And he also says that he's going to pay the debt and get Grandma what she wants, but not like this. And he tells them that it's time to call the Grail. We then cut to Hairstar and Allfather D'Ironique, who have just finished this massive meal. And when the scene started, way back, it was daytime, and now it's night. So they must have just been sitting there.
They've been eating all day.
Yeah, just gorging themselves all day. I don't know how, Star did it, but maybe he was just spreading his food around like we do when we're kids. But, Allfather's tearing it up. So he asks him if he enjoyed his hindquarters, and Star says, yes, my lord. And Allfather then grabs this stick. And now in the comic, I tried to look to see that if this is the same thing, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. But in the comic, the stick that he uses actually has 2 fingers carved into it, and he uses those to gag himself because the Allfather is in fact bulimic. So like I mentioned on the last show, I know that he eats until he throws up. I didn't know that they were going to go down the way of bulimia, and I guess I was just thinking that maybe it was too sensitive to put on TV, even though it's Preacher and they do so much other crazy shit. But that's in fact really what it is. Allfather is bulimic, and he just gorges and throws up in a bucket, and that's pretty well displayed in the comic. It's right there. I just didn't know they were going to do that for some reason. I thought he would just eat and then puke, and just for like the sake of like shock value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, enough about that. Allfather informs Star that the apocalypse is approaching. And Hairstar tells him, I'm looking forward to it, Allfather, because all he can really do is agree with this guy. That's it. He's just there to kiss this guy's ass and follow his orders, of course. D'Ironique goes on to say that on their command, the Grail's command, the world will lose their nuclear arsenals and the world will be made anew. It's basically going to be the end of the world is exactly what he's talking about, as ordained. Hairstar tells Allfather that he thought that referred to like the run on the banks, which I'm assuming was the soul banks. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case, but I'm thinking that's what he meant, that they were going to have like total control of all the soul banks.
Yes.
But Allfather tells him that, only fire can separate the true believer from the false, and only fire can pave the way for their Lord. All the religious stuff that they talk about. Hairstar says, Jesus Christ. And Allfather's like, exactly. He asks Star if he's a true believer, and Hairstar says that he is, but the Allfather questions his sincerity with just.
He said, "Are you?
Yeah, are you?" He just in his tone, he was questioning his sincerity. I am just a stammering mess right now. I apologize. Star tells him that he serves the Holy Child and his tap dancing majesty, as he calls him, and Allfather responds, "Good. Then let's talk about Jesse Custer," which makes Star like his whole fake smile just drops, because I don't think that he was aware that the Allfather knew anything about Jesse Custer. Is that correct? in this? Or did he talk about it on the last show?
He talked about him on the iPad. He was talking about the.
That's right.
Jesse.
Yeah. You're right. Well, whatever it was, he wasn't ready to talk about it at that moment. You could tell he did not want to.
The big thing is, we now find out that Hairstar wants to live. He does not want to die for the sake of this thing. He wants to live. So when he finds out the world is going to be destroyed, he's like, wait. What are we talking about right now? Why are we destroying the world? So even if there's a reason that he doesn't want the world destroyed, even if he survives it. Hairstar wants a world of people that he can lord over. If there's no one here, there's no one to rule. So he's like, no, I want to be over everything. And in order to be over everything, there have to be things to be over.
It would seem to me like his end game would be that he would be starting off as the right hand of the Messiah,
Bingo.
Jesse.
Yes.
But eventually killing off Jesse and becoming the Messiah himself. That seems like what he would want to do.
He does not want to be Messiah of no one.
No, he wants masses of people bowing to him.
Yes. Bingo. That's it. I don't think he wants to take Jesse's spot. I think he just wants Jesse to be Jesse. That's
true, because the right-hand man is usually a good spot to be.
Yes, and if Jesse has Genesis, that's all he needs. And he understands that with Genesis, Jesse is untouchable. But that gives him so much power that he's like, I don't need to be number one. Jesse has a power the likes we have never seen before. We need that guy. When you can tell someone to do something, they have to do it. That's a power unlike anything we've ever seen. So let's go with that. And I'll be second man to that. Because second man to that is more major than D.R. Anique. Because D.R. Anique is second man to this weird man-child. Imagine being second man to the person who speaks and people have to listen to what you say.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be second.
And can be a true threat, not just a bumbling, like it's going to be a threatening result because this guy's such an idiot or,
Totally. And if he gets Jesse where he wants him and Jesse agrees to do what he wants him to do, he can call Darren Anique and say, screw you. And Darren Anique was like, I'll be there in a minute. He'd be like, come on then. Jesse will just tell you what to do as soon as you walk off that plane. And you have to do it. At that point, there is nothing stopping Hairstar. Nothing.
He's got to play it carefully though, man, because you don't want to get Gallaghered by the Allfather's ass. I don't know if that's a good reference, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The comedian that's what it reminded me of when he jumped on that dude's head. Yeah, smashing watermelons. Hey, guess what, dude? We're like at the very last scene already. I just realized that.
Okay.
So the last scene has Cassidy walking up to Mima's porch, or Kevin's Mima's porch to be more specific about it. And he knocks on the door. She answers it. And he's like, oh, hey, Miss Rosen. And Mima tells Cassidy that she's so nice, Mima, and everyone's going to be thrilled to see him. But she asks what's wrong with him because he's looking poorly, as she puts it. Cass tells her that he's been smoking crack all day. And she's like, funny. Dear, that's no good for you. Come inside. Mm-hmm. I'm making blondies. Good old Mima. And Cass enters the house, and Mima says, yoo-hoo, everyone, look who's home. And that's how it ends right there. We're ready for next week already. That went by quicker than I expected it to.
He decides, I'm assuming he's deciding to just see what this Eccarius has. What's he got going on?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have this feeling that he is... Now, maybe I'm wrong, okay? But remember last episode or the episode before? They all start running together. But when Cass was telling that story about how a wife shot through her husband's abdomen and shot him in the head. Or no, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. A wife shot through his abdomen and killed her husband who was blowing him. They all of a sudden have introduced like this, this bisexuality with him very subtly. But I'm wondering, just going off of how the Anne Rice stories go and things like that, I wonder if he's kind of maybe, if not under a spell, just in fact, like he's infatuated with him. I kind of wonder if that's how they're going to go about it.
I'm very interested. I think I'm going to put it, I'm going to say that Cassidy ends up killing Eccarius.
Oh, without a doubt, I think that's where it's going to go eventually. But I still think that at the moment he might be, you know how like they can do that hypnotizing thing too, much like they did to the girl in the club with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost wondering if it's like some form of that, a vampire version of that, where Cassidy is just so enamored with him and attracted to him that this is, and he wants to see where this goes. You know what I mean? Not that he's looking for a relationship or something like that, but I think that that's where I think it's going to go. Just a guess.
I think it should. I think it should go. They should go all the way. I mean, if he's romantically attracted to him, see where that takes him. Who knows what's going on in Cassidy's head? We already see that vampire can do either way. I don't know what Cassidy's kid, because I know who knows what Cassidy's done in his history, G? And so I'm very interested in see where they put. I mean, Preacher's willing to go anywhere. So either way that they do it.
The only reason that I bring that up is because they usually don't put those little things in without it, like,
true,
coming to some kind of conclusion at the end, wherever it ends in the story. They're going to touch back on that again. And Cassidy says a lot of odd things, but I don't necessarily consider that odd just because he had a bisexual moment. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not, that's not in comparison to him like getting high and seeing little elves and things like that when he tells those crazy stories, or like at the dreams that he had where it was a town ran by deer or something like that. I'm thinking that they dropped that intentionally, but just a guess.
Yeah. The oddest thing that we've seen is him just changing into a cat. That's going to be something like he's now he's like a superhero to Cassidy. Cassidy's like, I've never seen anything like people do anything like this before. I didn't know we could do this. So I think Cassidy wants to know more. But if Cassidy starts getting a taste for human blood, mark my words, it's a game changer.
He's already struggled once. He had to fight it off once before.
Yep. So, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, that's game time.
That's it.
That is game time. Now, before we leave, Dan loves this point of the show where he gets to repeat how to get in touch with us. I know Dan likes doing this.
Nothing I love more, Steve.
Of course not.
You guys get the short version.
Biscuits.
Not even biscuits. You're right. And I do love me a biscuit. You know this.
Do you know how to make biscuits?
Yeah, you just pop the top and you put them in the oven.
I'm saying like from scratch.
I'm pretty sure I could figure it out. Yeah. Have I ever made any? No. But I think I got biscuits handled. I think I could do it.
Didn't know you know how to make biscuits.
I don't, but I told you I think I can figure it out.
I don't think I could.
Oh, come on, man. You're not giving yourself enough credit.
I'm not a big biscuit person.
You're just a big biscuit head.
Oh, there it is. You see how cold he is to me, people?
All out of love. All right, guys. This is it. I'm going to give you a little more contact information here, and here we go. If you want to reach the show, you want to email us. I'm going to actually make this the shortest I've ever done, Steve. www.heroesofnoise.com is where you can get any access to us that you need. You can subscribe to our show. You can email us. You can leave us voicemails. Again, I'm emphasizing that. Go to the contact tab, click on it, and go to voicemail. And right there, you can record right from your computer or your smartphone. Get in touch with us. Listen to the Heroes of Noise podcast. That's our other show that we do that's all about pop culture. And we will have a new one coming out in just probably about the time that this one comes out too. And we're going to be more consistent with those from now on. And most importantly, please come back. Please listen to the word. We have like 4 more episodes to go, guys. And then we go poof. We go away for a while. And then you just got the heroes. So you might as well just jump on the bandwagon now because that's where we're going to be. But that's it for me as far as the contact information goes. Back to Steve.
People, this wonderful podcast has made my day. I started off a little bit rough and now I'm feeling wonderful. And it's all because of the man right here, Danathan, and you. I love y'all. This is the end of this show, but we will see you again next week. Can't wait to talk to you then. And the next wonderful, amazing tone you will hear is the man himself, Dan.
Bye, Steve. Thanks for your understanding on our tardiness this week. We had some family stuff we had to take care of, but we did, in fact, get you a show. We will be on it, on point next week, rest assured. That's it for me for now. My name is Dan Ramirez, saying bye for Steve Hudson once more. And people, thanks for listening.